and capabilities to handle any collector car or any automobile auction, regardless of size or complexity. I encourage you to visit Sotheby's.com for a list of upcoming events hosted by our friends at Sotheby's. RM Sotheby's also proudly recognizes Sotheby's International Realty as our official real estate partner. Sotheby's International Realty is the only truly international, full-service real estate brokerage with more than 800 offices in 63 countries. To learn more about properties currently offered for sale on the Monterey Peninsula or across the globe, or to discuss selling your own, please visit the Sotheby's International Realty Gallery in the lobby or visit them online at sotheby'shomes.com. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the auction will commence very shortly at 7 o'clock sharp. I encourage you to enter the auction tent as soon as possible. Thank you again.
Change my way to something new. I don't know what, I have no clue. Deliberately focusing in on what I can be, how you change me, what's going on. The processes, the promises, I'm holding on to whatever you said to do, and it's going on, and I'll be alright.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to the first evening of RM Sotheby's Monterey sale. We're thrilled to be back here at the Portola Hotel and Spa in a slightly different configuration, as you've no doubt noticed, for what is sure to be another magnificent Pebble Beach week. Our thanks to all of our consigners for entrusting us with your prized automobiles, as well as to our clients for joining us here in Monterey and around the world via the phone and the internet as well. For those who don't know me, my name is Alan Squindo. I am COO at RM Sotheby's. To my right this evening is our dear friend, Mr. Bill Ruprecht, who will be tonight's auctioneer. Bill was the principal auctioneer at Sotheby's for many, many years, including hosting a great many car auctions as well. He is a dyed-in-the-wool car guy at that, and we're thrilled to have him join us this evening. Thank you, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, a brief note on our conditions of business. All sales are as is and where is. The final bid price does not include buyer's premium and any applicable taxes. The buyer's premium is 10% for all vehicles, and 15% for all other lots. Payment and shipping arrangements for all lots must be arranged by Monday, August 22nd at 5 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, then, without further ado, Lot 101 is the 1952 Allard K2 Roadster, a lovely left-hand drive car that may very well be unique with its side-mount spare and a Dion rear axle. Under the hood, a powerful Chrysler Hemi with dual Carter carbs made it to a stout Muncie 4-speed. Although the original 3-speed does come with this car, we should mention. It's rare, it's on the button. This evening it is Lot 101. It is offered without reserve. Once again, the 1952 Allard K2 Roadster.
1, 2, 3. Thank you, Alan. Lot number 101 then for the 1952 Allard. Let's start it off. This is an unreserved car. Now let's start it off at $50,000 at 50. Do I have 50 to start it then at 50? Right up front, thank you, at $50,000 now at 50. I have 50, say 60. At 50, right up front at 50,000. At $50,000 now forward at 50, right. 60 in the center, Gus, now at 60. At $60,000, not your bid. $70,000 on my left now at $70,000 now at 70. At $70,000 left side now at 70. 75 then with you, Barney, at 75. That's your bid at 75, then at 75. $80,000 now at 80. On the left now at 80,000. At 80,000 against you, Ian, at 80,000. 85 now right up front now at 85. 90,000 in the far side now at $90,000. That's yours, sir. At 90,000 with the mustache at 90,000. At 95 now with you, David, at 95. At 95, where your bid is now at 95. $100,000 now at 100. Here at 100 on my left, now at 100. 110, now at 110. 110 on the right. $110,000 on my right then at 110. $110,000 where you called it at 110 on the right hand side. Are we done now at $110,000 right hand side? 115 in time now. 115 with Jonathan. 120 now in the center now at 120. At $120,000 now at 120. 120 now at 120,000. 125 at 125 safe. 130. 125 then. $125,000 all done. At $125,000. Going once. Going twice. Sold. $125,000 where you've called it. 419 is the paddle number.
Lot 102 has been withdrawn from the sale, but we continue with Lot 103, the 1988 Ferrari 328 GTS on the stage to my right now. The finest and most desirable iteration of this body style, and this must be one of the very best extant. Not only is it complete with books, tools, and rare fitted luggage, but the mileage is very low, and the car is both Classic A certified and it's a multiple Platinum Award winner. Fully serviced late last year. This is Lot 103, the Ferrari 328 GTS.
Once again, without reserve. Thank you, Alan. Let's start it off at 60,000. Do we have 60,000 to begin it now at 60? Say 60 for it then at 60. Do we have 60,000 to begin it? 60,000, say 60 for it now at 60. Say 50. At 50,000, do we have 50,000? You're a good man, David. At $40,000 now at 40. At 40,000, 45 now in the center at 45. At $45,000 now in the center at 40. 50,000 yours, Barney, at 50,000. Say 55. It's $50,000 where you've called it, Barney. $55,000 now at 55. At 55 now $60,000 at 60 then at 60,000. $65,000 now at 65. Thank you, Pete. $65,000. At $65,000 now at $70,000 in the center now at 70. At $70,000 now at 70. Seated center at 70. 75 now with Pete now at 75. At $75,000 now at 75. Say 80. $75,000 all done then. $80,000. Thank you, Barney. At $85,000 now at 85. $90,000 now at 90. Your bid at 90, Barney. At $90,000 now at 90,000 for it now at 90. At $90,000 in the center of the room at $90,000. All done then at 90,000. Your bid, Barney, at $90,000 and fair warning at $90,000. Sold $90,000. Too late, sorry. 7673.
Lot 104 should be purchased by a dealer or out-of-state resident due to California emissions regulations. This is the infamous 1999 Lamborghini Diablo VT Roadster, a 200-mile-per-hour convertible with a 4-second 0 to 60 time and a 500 horsepower V12 located amidships. This one has accumulated just over 6,000 miles from only 2 owners, was serviced just this year, and presents absolutely beautiful in Rosso Mica. Lot 104, the Lamborghini Diablo.
Thank you, Ellen. We have 2 absentee bids here, starting at $150, $175. Now at $175 and $200,000 already with me at $200. At $200,000, my bidder now at $200. Absentee bid at $200,000, now at $200. Not with the room, it's with the absentee bidder at $200,000 then. At $200,000, are we through at $200? At $200,000, then at $200. Absentee bid, $225, then at $225. At $225, now at $225. $240 here, now at $240. Back with the absentee bidder, now at $240. Say $250. $250 on the right, now at $250. $275, back with me at $275. Order bid now at $275 with the absentee bidder at $275,000 at $275. $275,000, then absentee bidder at $275. Any advance above $275,000, we threw at $275. With me then, absentee bidder at $275. Sold $275. 7960.
Lot 105 should likewise be purchased by a dealer or out-of-state resident due to California emissions regulations. This is the 1977 Porsche 911 Turbo Carrera, another downright outrageous supercar, from the massive whale tail at the rear to the flared fenders and that back-pounding turbocharger. This being a particularly terrific low-mileage example in silver over black leather with black watch tartan seat inserts. This is properly, quintessentially Porsche. It is lot 105.
Thank you, Alan. Started at 100,000. Do we have 100 to begin it? It's unreserved. Now at 100. Do we have 100,000? Started at 100,000. Now at 100. Do we have 100? At 100. Do we have 100 now? Bid 90. Bid 80. Bid 70. Started off then at 70. 70. Where do we have it? 70, right in the center. Thank you. At $70,000 ahead of you now at 70. At 70,000 now. 75, Pete. Now at 75. At $75,000, 80,000, 85,000 now on the light. At 85, say 90. 90,000 now at 90. At $90,000 now at 90. Say 100. $100,000 now with you, Barney, at 100. 110 is next. 100 here, 110. Where you've called it, 110, Weaver. 125, thank you, Gordon, at 125. 125, 130 now at 130. $130,000 now at 130. 140 I have now at 140. 150. Ahead of you, Peter. All the way left, then at 160, then at 160. 175 now at 175. 175 now with Peter on the telephone at 175. 180 now at 180. Say 190. 200. At 200,000 now at 2. Say 210. 200 on my right on the phone then at 200. At $200,000, it's 200. Any more? We have $200,000 now at 200. 210. All the way left then at 210,000. That's your bid. At 210. All the way left then at 210. 220 now. Yours, Peter, at 220. At 220 now at 220. Any more? It's Peter's bid at 220 then. $220,000 are 230 now at 230,000. At 230 against you, Peter, at 230. $250? $250,000 I have now at 250. On my right, on the phone at $250,000 at 250. At 250, on the phone right. At 250 with Peter Wallman at 250,000 and against you now at 250. Are you bidding? It's $250,000 and fair warning then at 250. Last chance. $250,000 bidding right on the phone at 250. Sold. That's 250. Here's Peter. 7891.
Yes.
7891. Thank you.
Lot 106, the 1982 Aston Martin V8 Vantage, the famous Oscar India, and this is a genuine factory left-hand drive car, one of only 3 in full specification delivered to the States. Take another look, ladies and gentlemen. This is a full restoration of a matching numbers 425 horsepower, quadruple Weber carbureted 4-cam Aston after being in the care of its original owner's family virtually its entire life. This is a proper iron fist and a velvet glove, but more than that, it was the fastest accelerating production car in the world. Lot 106, the blindingly fast Aston Martin V8 Vantage Oscar India.
Thank you, Alan. And we begin it now at $200,000, now at 200. I have $200,000 for it at 200, 200, 225, now 250. At $250,000, it's 250, now at 250, 275, now at 275. Against you at 275. At 275, now at 275. 300, now at 300. At $300,000, now at 300. I have $300,000 now, 325 in the rear center at 325. With you, Gus, then at 325,000. At 325, center rear at 325. I'm selling it at 325 now at 325,000. Reserve is off. It's $325,000 in the rear center at 325,000 then at 325. At $325,000, are we through? Only then at 325. Your bid, sir. Rear center at $325,000. Any more? It's 325 then. Fair warning. Sold. Your bid, sir, at 325. 8050, and that was 325.
Lot 107, the 1989 Lamborghini Countach 25th anniversary, the final, most desirable variant of the wildest styling statement to ever come from Lamborghini, with over 500 subtle changes from its predecessor, everything from power windows to those aggressive two-piece alloy rims. It's exceptionally original, this car, with just under 11,000 kilometers from new, and it was treated to a full service by Mark specialists just last year. Lot 107 is the Lamborghini Countach 25th Anniversary Edition.
And we begin it now at 130,000, 130, and 130 only now at 130,000, 140, 150 now at 150, at 150 now say 60, 150 now at 150 for it now at 150, 160 then at 160, ahead of you, 170 left side now at 170, at $170,000 now at 170, on my left at 170, 180 now at 180, at $180,000 now against you, Brent, at 180, at $180,000 now at 180, say 190. $190,000 left side with you then at 190. At $190,000 now at 200 now at 200. At $200,000 now at 200. 210 now with you, Barney, at 210. In the center of the room at 210. At $210,000 now at 210. Your bid now, Barney, at 210. I'll sell it at $210,000 then at 210. At $210,000, are we done at 210? At $210,000, then Ford at 210, say 220. At $210,000, then Ford at 210. Any more? It's 210. At $210,000, then Ford at 210. Are we done at 210,000? $210,000. Fair warning. Going once. Going twice. Sold, Barney, at 210. $357.
Lot 108, the 1922 Ford Model T8 Dirt Track Roadster, which we offer this evening from the distinguished collection of our good friend Monterey Jack Bockstrom. This isn't merely an original car, it has well-known four-owner history from new, with all the right post-war speed equipment you'd expect from an early hot rodder like Tommy Garland. Bomber seats, a steering wheel made from a circular saw blade, if you can believe it, and other ingenious applications. Few of these roadsters survived, much less in such original condition, and this one is offered without reserve, once again from our good friend Mr. Jack Bockstrom, lot 108.
Thank you, Alan. If you want to feel alive, this is your car.
Absolutely.
Start the bidding off here where? 20,000? Do we have 20,000 to begin it? Say 20. Do we have 20,000 for the car now at 20? Say 20. 20,000. Do we have 20 for it now at 20? Say 20. 20,000. Do we have 20,000 to begin it now? Jack's car at 20. Do we have 20,000? Right here then, thank you. 15. 10,000. Starting it at 10. Thank you, at 10. At $10,000 now at 10,000 for it at 10. Say 15. $10,000 then for it at 10. $10,000 then for it at 10. Right here near me at 10. I have $10,000 now for it at 10. 15 years, Pete, now at 15,000. $15,000 now here at 15. Say 20. $15,000 then for it at 15. 17 and a half now at 17 and a half. Here at 17 and a half. Up front then at 17,500. Against you, Pete, at 17.5. $17,500 then at 17.5. 20,000 with you. We were now at 20,000. $20,000 now at 20. At $20,000, your bid now at 20. 22 and a half. 22 and a half now at 22 and a half. At 22 and a half near me, then at 25. 25 all done then at 25. Pete, you done? $25,000 in the center then at 25. At $25,000, we all through at 25,000. At $25,000, your bid in the center at 25, all through, and fair warning then at $25,000. Sold it is at $25,000.
Have a number?
Well, Weaver, get a paddle and give it to the desk for me, if you will. 7331, thank you.
Lot 109, likewise from the Boxstrom collection, is the 1932 Ford Highboy Roadster, which Jack entrusted to the Longleys with very appropriate instruction. A 20-year-old ex-serviceman buys a used Deuce Roadster in 1947, removes all the necessary parts, hops up the motor, and goes racing. That's this car. Chopped windshield, Lakes graphics, bomber seats, flathead V8. This is a perfect textbook definition of what post-war California hot rodding is all about. Lot 109, the Deuce Roadster.
And beginning at 25. We have 25 to start it now at 25,000. Started at 25. Wonderful car at 25,000. Do we have 25 to begin it then at 25? Say 25. $25,000. Do we have 25 to begin it? Say 20. Say 15. We have $15,000 to begin it now at 15. 15,000, 17.5, Pete, at 17.5. At 17.5, that's your bid. 20,000, 22.5, thank you. At 22.5, now at 25,000, Barney's bid. At 25,000, now at 25. At 25,000 against you, Brent. 25,000 in the center with Barney at 25. At 25,000, we done. 27.5, thank you, at 27.5. $30,000 now in the center at 30. At $30,000, then Ford at 30. At 30,000 done. In the center of the room at 30. In the rear now at 30,000. 30,000 only then at 30. We done at 30,000. At $30,000 then Ford at 30. And I'll sell it at $30,000 then at 30. At 32.5 now at 32,500. At 35,000 now at 35. I have $35,000 now Ford at 35 against you. At 35 in the center of the room, center aisle at $35,000. All done. At 35, 37.5, now at 37.5. Nope, 35, back to you then in the center, Barney, at 35. At $35,000, your bidder at 35. At $35,000 then in the center of the room at $35,000. Any advance above 35, your bid, Barney, then at 35,000. All done then at $35,000. Fair warning. Sold it is at 35. 7009, thank you.
Lot 110, for which the title is in transit, is the 1934 Ford Highboy 3-window coupe. Raked, chopped, and modified in every possible way that befits the period. Jack's coupe really has the look and the power. A flathead V8 with Edelbrock heads, high-rise intake, and dual Stromberg carbs, and high-compression pistons. Some of the best 1950s speed equipment out there. And it's offered today without reserve. The Lot 110 is the 1934 Ford Highboy 3-window coupe.
Interest here, several absentee bids now. We begin at $40,000, $45,000 now with me at 45 already. At $45,000 now at 45, 47.5, $50,000 my bidder at 50. At $50,000 say 55. At $55,000 and at 55 my bidder at 55. At $55,000 and at 55. $55,000 to the order bidder against the room then. At $55,000 at 55. We have $55,000 now at 55 anymore at 55. At $55,000 and Ford at 55, say 60. $60,000 now at 60. $65,000 now Ford at 65. My bidder at 65. At 65 now at 65 with me at 65. My bidder at 65 and against you, Gus. At $65,000 and Ford at 65. $65,000 now at 65. $65,000, not your bid now at 65. At 65, it's my bid in the book against $70,000 now at 70. 72.5 now with me at 72.5. 75, still with me at 75. 77.5, $80,000 now with me still at $80,000. Now say 85. It's $80,000 with me now at 80. $80,000 then at 80. I have $80,000 then Ford at 80. Absentee bidder at 80,000. Against the room at 80,000. We all threw at $80,000 and against all of you here at $80,000. We all threw at $80,000 to the book at 80,000. And sold it is at 80,000. That's L7918 at 80,000.
Lot 111 is Jack's personal 1961 Chaparral 1 prototype. The first of the two Jim Hall team cars built by Troutman and Barnes with complete history from new. Road America, Riverside, Laguna Seca, all the great races with all the great drivers. But something, ladies and gentlemen, not in the catalog is this. In the early 1960s, Jack's first big race was at Mosport in a Lotus 9, and every time he saw a small white dot in his curved rearview mirror, it was actually Jim Hall in this very car, roaring past him and nearly running him off the track, overtaking him every 7 laps just like clockwork. Years later, he bought that very same car, and RM's very own Jack from the Track has raced this car highly successfully, we might add, ever since. Once again, a very special car, very well known to the RM family. Lot 111 is Jack's Chaparral 1 prototype.
What a spectacular car. Started at $450,000, now at $450,000. I have $450,000 to begin it now at $450,000 and $475,000 at $475,000. At $475,000 now at $475,000. At $475,000 then $470,000. $500,000 Gord, now you're bid at $5,000. At $500,000, $525,000 I have now at $525,000. At $525,000, say $50,000. At $525,000, $550,000 now at $550,000. At $550,000 with Gord at $575,000. Yes, at $575,000. At $575,000 now at $575,000. Say $600,000. At $575,000 now Ford at $575,000. At $575,000 then Ford at $575,000. Say $600,000. $575,000 then at $575,000 now. At $575,000 now at $575,000. At $575,000 and against you, Gord, at $575,000. At $575,000 now, $600,000 then now at $600,000. At $600,000, yes, at $600,000. $625,000 now. At $625,000 now at $625,000. At $625,000 now at $625,000. Say $50,000, $650,000 I have then. $650,000 now at $650,000. Say $75,000. $675,000 I have now at $675,000. $675,000 then Ford at $675,000. $675,000 now say $700,000. $675,000 then Ford at $675,000. At $675,000 then Ford at $675,000. We all through now at $675,000 and fair warning then at $675,000. Fair warning at $675,000. And we're going to pass the lot at $675,000.
Lot 112 is the 1965 Ferrari 275 GTB, likewise from Mr. Bockstrom's collection. This is one of his very best street cars from the collection of a true connoisseur, a full photo-documented restoration of a low-mileage, highly original car. It's matching numbers and Classic K certified, and very importantly, it has an upgraded roll-off drive shaft kit, which tremendously improves the driving experience. In that color of grigio argento with those outside lace wire wheels, its presence is absolutely stunning. This is lot 112, the 275 GTB.
Wonderful car. Now let's start it at $1 million, now at $1 million. We have $1 million now for it at $1 million. $1,000,001 now at $1,150,000 here now at $1,150,000. Against you at $1,200,000 now at $1,200,000. $1,250,000, $1,300,000, $1,350,000 with me now at $1,350,000. $1,350,000 absentee bid at $1,400,000, $1,450,000 here at $1,450,000. My bidder at $1,450,000. Say $1,500,000, $1,550,000 still with me at $1,550,000. Order bid now at $1,550,000. Now say $1,600,000. $1,550,000 then at $1,550,000 then for it. $1,550,000 and I'll sell it then at $1,550,000. $1,550,000 to the order bidder at $1,550,000. At $1,550,000, the reserve is off at $1,550,000 then for it at $1,550,000. And we'll sell it then at $1,550,000, all done at $1,550,000 to the order bid at $1,550,000 then. Last chance, $1,500,000 and $1,600,000, where you've called it now at $1,600,000, Pete. $1,600,000, your bid now at $1,600,000 at $1,600,000. 1,675. 1,575 then. $1,575,000. Your bid then at $1,575,000 at $1,575,000 then. Say $1,600,000. I'm out then. It's $1,575,000. Center right at $1,575,000. Any advance above $1,575,000. Last chance, $1,575,000 then. Sold. That's your bid, sir. $1,575,000. $7,287. Thank you, Pete.
Lot 113 is the 1972 Ferrari 365 GTB4 Daytona Berlinetta. Consider this, the consignor has owned this car for 4 decades and amazingly has added less than 5,000 miles to the odometer, buying the car from the original owner. Classic and certified, complete with its red book and books and tools. This is a very well-known and highly regarded Daytona in Ferrari circles, and in these quintessential colors, we can't imagine a more perfect example. Lot 113 is the Ferrari Daytona.
Wonderful car. Let's start it at $400,000 then. At $400,000 then Ford at $400,000. $425,000. Yours then at $425,000. $450,000 with me. Order bid at $450,000 now at $450,000. Say $475,000. $475,000 ahead of you now. $500,000. $525,000 now at $525,000. At $550,000 now, still with me at $550,000. $575,000, then where you've called it at $575,000. $600,000 now, still with me to the order bidder at $600,000. $625,000 now at $625,000. $650,000, my bidder here at $650,000. At $650,000 now at $650,000. At $650,000, then say $675,000. $650,000 then here, then at $650,000. The reserve is off at $650,000, then at $650,000. At $650,000, then Ford at $650,000. At $650,000, say $675,000. $650,000 then against you. Not your bid. $675,000 then at $675,000. On the right-hand side at $675,000 now. At $675,000. $675,000 seated in the second row at $675,000. On my right then. $675,000 all done now at $675,000. Are we through at $675,000? Last chance. And indeed, sold $675,000. Here's Barney. 7620.
Drivers run to their cars at the start of the greatest sports car classic of all, the Le Mans 24-hour race. Jaguar number 4, Ron Flockhart and Ninian Sanderson is well up among the leaders. And it's these Scottish amateurs who bring all off a great prize. Their Jaguar roars home 10 miles ahead of Moss & Collins' Aston Martin. And 6 of the first 8 are British cars.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lot 114, the 1955 Jaguar D-Type winner of the 1956 24 Hours of Le Mans, the most famous, most grueling, and most glorious race in the world. This very car, yes, by all means, please. It was this very car, driven by two Scotsmen, Flockhart and Sanders, powering past competition from Aston, Ferrari, and others to complete 2,507 miles in terrible weather with maximum speeds on the Mulsanne Straight of over 160 miles per hour. Just two private owners from new, liveried in these beautiful Ecurie Ecosse colors, and this being the first privateer team car, chassis XKD 501, offered now after close to 2 decades in private ownership. An opportunity of this importance, as you well know, will not come again soon, perhaps ever. Lot 114 is the Le Mans winning Jaguar D-Type.
And so we begin. Started at $10 million, now at $10 million for it, now at $10 million. $11 million I have now at $11 million. At $11 million, then Ford at 11. At $11 million for it, now at 11 million, say 12. $12 million, Shelby then at $12 million, now Ford at $12 million at 12. I have $12 million, now Ford at 12, 13 now at 13. $14 million now at 14, in the center of the room now at 14. At 14, 15 now at $15 million at 15. At $15 million now Ford at 15. $16 million now at $16 million. Shelby's bid at 16. At $16 million, then Ford at 16 with Shelby. 17 now at $17 million, now at 17. At $17 million, now Ford $18 million, now at $18 million. On my right at 18. Shelby's bidder now at $18 million, then Ford at 18. At $18 million, now at $18 million for it, now at $18 million. I can sell it at $18 million. At $18 million, now Ford at 18. At $18 million, then Ford at 18 with Shelby at $18 million. At $18 million, then Ford at 18 on my right, now at 18. At $18 million, then Ford at 18. At $18 million, now Ford at 18, say 18.5. Whew. $18.1 million now at $18.1 million at 18.1. At $18.1 million now at 18.1 million. $18,100,000 then Ford at 18,000,001. $18,100,000 now at 18.1. At $18,100,000 anymore. At $18,100,000 now say 18.2. At $18,100,000 are we through? At $18,100,000 then at 18.1. 18.2 now at 18.2. At $18,200,000 now at 18.2. At $18,200,000 now at 18.2. At $18,200,000 now at 18.2, where you've called it, Gord, at 18.2. At $18,200,000 anymore. $18,300,000 now at $18,300,000 now at 18.3. $18,300,000 now at 18.3. $18,300,000 and against you now at 18,300,000. At $18,300,000 now at 18.3. You guys have got to stop talking to each other and start talking to me at $18,300,000 now. At $18,300,000 now at 18.3. At $18,300,000 are we done at 18.3. $18,300,000 and fair warning then at $18,300,000 are we through at 18,400,000. $18,400,000 now at 18.4. At 18,400,000. At $18,400,000 now at 18.4. $18.5. The next bid like that, he's going to have to buy us all dinner tonight, all right? 18.5 now at 18.5. Now say 18.6. $18,500,000. And against you. 18.6. Now at 18,600,000. $18,600,000 now. $18,600,000 now at $18,600,000. We done at 18.6. At $18,600,000, say 18.7. 18.7. Now say 18.8. $18,700,000. $18,700,000. We through. At $18,700,000, 18,700,000. At 18.7, we all done at 18.7. At 18.8 now at $18,800,000. At $18,800,000. Anything to say, Gord? At $18,800,000 now at 18.8. That's a lovely bid. Thank you very much. At $19 million now at 19. $19 million now at 19. $19.2, thank you. $19,200,000 now at 19.2. $19,200,000 nearer me than at 19.2. At $19,200,000 now at 19.2. $19,200,000 at $19,200,000. Then Ford at 19.2. $19,200,000. Are we through now? At $19,200,000 at $19,200,000 at 19.2. $19,400,000 now at 19.4. $19,400,000. $19,400,000 then at 19.4. At $19,400,000. Any advance on 19.4? $19,400,000 and at 19.4, and against you at $19,400,000. Fair warning then at $19,400,000. Not your bid. $19,500,000 now at 19.5. $19,500,000 now at 19.5. Why don't you say $20 million and we'll just move things right along. 19.5 then at 19.5. $19,500,000 then at 19.5. Nearer me then at 19.5. It's near me at 19.5, not with you, Gord, at 19.5. Not your bid on the right-hand side. At $19,500,000, any advance, 19.6. 19.6. At 19.6, now at 19.6. Say 19.7. 19.6. $19.6 million. Are we all done at 19.6? At $19.6 million, then at 19.6. Fair warning, at $19.6 million, not... $19.7, new bidder on the left-hand side, 19.7. $19.7 million now at 19.7. You had it all to yourselves, guys. There's $19.7 million now over here at 19.7. At $19.7 million now at 19.7. Against you both. $19.7 million now at 19.7. $19.7 million at 19.8. Now back here in the original bidder at 19.8. 19.8 now at 19.8. Say 20. 19.8 now say 20. It's $19,800,000 now at 19.8. $19,800,000. Are we through? At $19,800,000. It's here in the front row at $19,800,000. Going once at 19.8. Going twice at 19.8. And last chance at $19.8 million. Sold right here at $19.8 million. The highest price ever paid for a British automobile.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following cars are offered from the Carroll Hall Shelby Trust and the Carroll Shelby Foundation, respectively. Before we begin, on behalf, yes, please. Before we begin, on behalf of the Myers family and the entire RM team, we would like to mention that this offering is, of course, deeply personal, and we're particularly honored to be presenting these cars here today. Please also note that Lot 115 has been removed from the sale as it will now be given to the winning bidder of CSX 2000. Therefore, we start with Lot 116. To my left, offered without reserve, is Carroll Shelby's personal 1999 Series 1 Roadster, the only car designed and built entirely by Shelby with modern carbon fiber bodywork, a 320 horsepower V8, 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, and as we presented here today, only 2,600 original miles. Once again, Carroll Shelby's personal Series 1 Roadster is lot 116.
Offered without reserve, and we begin it now at 100,000. Say at 100. Do we have 100,000 to begin it now at 100? Say 100. Do we have 100,000 then for it at 100? 100,000 your bid, sir. At 100 on my left, then at 100. At $100,000 now at 100. Left side at 100. At 100 now, say at 110. $100,000 on my left, then at 100. At $100,000 on my left, then at 100. $100,000 now at 100. At $100,000 seated, left side at 100. At $100,000, 110, where you've called it, Gus, at 110. At 110 now, at 110, say 120. 110, then at 110 for it now at 110. At 110,000, 115, yours at 115, now at 115. 115, 120 now with Gus at 120. $120,000 now at 120. At 120,000, now say 125. It's 120 then at 120. At $120,000 then Ford at 120. At $120,000 then Ford at 120. Say 125. 120. In the center of the room at 120. At $120,000 then Ford at 120. 125 right up here. $120,000 and at 120 still. Your bid, Gus, at 120 still. At $120,000 and Ford at 120. All done on 25 now at 125. 125, same bid, I think 125. 125 now at 125. At 125 now at 125. $125,000 now at 125. $125,000 and against you, Gus, at 125. 125, then are we all done at $125,000. Left side, 125 with you, Jonathan, at 125. Sold, 125.
$1,842.
1842.
CSX 2000. When you look at it, the car started really a revolution when it came to performance, not only in America, but really all over the world. Because Carroll took an idea. He took an idea of having a neat little sports car and putting a small American V8 in it. And it was very manageable. That car handled well. It wasn't too front-end heavy, had a good weight distribution, had tremendous performance. It evolved as the cars raced, won more races. They got a reputation. They became legendary, and they've remained legendary. Many, many years ago, Carroll made a statement. He said, if anybody in the Shelby American team ever upgrades the upholstery in this car, they're going to look for a new job the next morning. So in 54 years, nobody is there to touch it, and it is the way it was. That is really part of the aura of CSX 2000. It is as original as you can get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, a car that requires truly no introduction. Lot 117 is CSX 2000. Driven on stage this evening by Aaron Shelby himself. A round of applause, please, for Mr. Shelby. Aaron, I believe you have a microphone. Can you hear us?
Good evening, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very exciting to be here this evening. CSX 2000. This is the genesis of the Shelby brand. Carroll made this car back in 1962. This is the prototype. Everybody knows the story of this car. It was created out of the ACAs in partnership with Ford, and it was some of the fun stories is the number of paint jobs this car has had. There's an open question to that, I think. Is he repainted it for all the car magazines he sees to the different auto shows? So real exciting to offer this car here this evening, and let's see what we can get for it.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, as you see it, entirely original, unrestored, and offered for sale of any kind for the first time in its life, this is the first Shelby CSX 2000, Lot 117.
extraordinary piece of history. Started off at $5 million, now at $5 million, Ford at 5. I have $5 million, now Ford at 5. $6 million, $6 million. I have $6 million, now Ford at $6 million, $7 million. I have $7 million already now at 7. At $7 million, now Ford at 7. At $7 million, $7.5. $8 million now at $8 million with Donnie at $8 million. 8.5 here now at $8.5 million at $8.5 million. Say 9. At $8.5 million now at 8.5. I have $8.5 million now Ford at $8.5 million. At $8,500,000 then Ford at $8,500,000. At $8,500,000 then Ford at $8,500,000. $9 million now on the phone at $9 million. At $9 million then Ford at 9. $9 million now on the telephone at $9 million. At $9 million Ford at 9, now at $9,500,000. I have $9,500,000 now at $9,500,000. At $9,500,000 now Ford at 9.5. At $9,500,000, $10 million Ford at 10. At $10 million now on the phone at 10. At $10 million now, and the reserve is off, ladies and gentlemen, at $10 million. At $10 million, at $10 million, then Ford at 10. At $10 million, it's on the phone at $10 million. At $10 million now Ford at 10. At $10 million now Ford at 10. I have $10 million now Ford, take 10.5. At $10 million now Ford at 10. At $10 million Ford on my right-hand side on the phone. At $10 million, then at 10. I have $10 million now Ford at 10 million. At $10 million then Ford at 10, it's 10 million. Say 10.5, it's 10 million. At $10 million then Ford at 10, say 10.5. At $10 million then Ford at 10, any more at 10. I will sell it then at $10 million on the right-hand side on the telephone. $10,250,000 then at 10. Is that what you said? Wait, $10,250,000 now at $10,250,000. Your bidder now at $10,250,000. Right up front now at $10,250,000. Against you, Donnie. $10,250,000 now at $10,250,000. Called in the center now at $10,250,000 at $10,250,000. Any more now? At $10,250,000. At $10,250,000 and at $10,250,000. I will sell it then for $10,250,000. Fair warning at $10,250,000 then at $10,250,000 with you, Eve, at $10,250,000. At $10,250,000, are you bidding? $10,300,000 then at $10,300,000. 10.5 now at $10,500,000. At $10,500,000, thank you, at $10,500,000. At $10,500,000. $10,750,000 now at $10,750,000 now at $10,750,000. $11 million now. You're having your own auction at $11 million now at 11. $11 million now at 11. At $11 million. I have $11 million now at 11. In the center of the room at $11 million. Not your bid, ma'am. $11,100,000 now at $11,100,000. Thank you. $11,250,000. $11,250,000. $11,250,000 now at $11,250,000. There we go. $12 million now at $12 million. $12,500,000 now at 12.5. At $12,500,000 now at 12.5. Give me that phone. $12,500,000 now at $12,500,000. We all done then at $12,500,000 and still against you, Donnie, at $12,500,000 in the center of the room at $12,500,000 in the second row at 12.5. Sold. $12,500,000. $7,197. Thank you both very much.
Lot 118 should be purchased by a dealer or out-of-state resident due to California emissions regulations. This, once again, was one of Carroll Shelby's own, the 1986 Dodge Shelby Omni GLHS. I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, any other entry point in ex-Carroll Shelby ownership will never be as attractively priced, and without reserve, for that matter. A turbocharged and intercooled Dodge Pocket Rocket with less than 8,000 original miles and astonishing rarity. As Carroll put it, it goes like hell some more. Lot 118 is the 1986 Dodge Shelby Omni GLHS.
Started at 20,000. Do we have 20,000 to begin it now at 20? Say 20. Unreserved, do we have 20? 20, Pete, your bid now at 20. At $20,000 now at 20 on the right-hand side at 20. I have 20 now at 20,000. At $20,000 then Ford at 20. On the right now with Pete at 20. At 20,000, I'll sell it at 20. At $20,000 now at 20. Do we have any more at 20,000? At $20,000 then Ford at 20. $20,000, your bidder, Pete, at 20. $20,000 then Ford at 20. Single bid then of $20,000 are we through at $20,000 then for it now at $20,000. Last chance and fair warning at $20,000 then for it at $20,000. There we go. $22,000 in time now. Thank you. $22,000 on my left now at 22. Say 25, Pete. 25 now at 25. 28. 25 then and against you at 25. $25,000 at 25. All done now at 25. At $25,000, not your bid. At 25 then at $25,000 and fair warning. Sold. 25,000 your bid, Pete. 5, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Lot 119 is Carroll Shelby's personal 1965 427 Cobra. The big block sister car that 3 years after CSX 2000 was born, shared a stable with its entire life. With a restoration by Mike McCluskey to its credit, we're honored once again. Mr. Shelby, over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're real excited to offer this car this evening for the benefit of the Carroll Shelby Foundation. I'm a Carroll Shelby Foundation board member, and Carroll created the foundation in 1990 after he had his heart transplant. He is the focus of the foundation today is children's medical needs and continuing automotive education for technical training. So we're again excited to have this. It's been in Carroll's collection basically since new. It's a very unique 427 car, and let's go ahead and get this started for the foundation. Thank you.
A very good cause indeed. Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Mr. Shelby's personal big block Cobra, lot 119.
Offered in this case, once again, without reserve, ladies and gentlemen. Although you will not be able to steal it, as I can start it off with a bid at $500,000 and an order bid already at $500. I have $500,000 to start it now at $500. With me at $500, order bid now at $500. At $500,000 now at $500, then Ford at $500. At $500,000 now at $500, $550, then $6. Still with me now at $600. At $600,000, then Ford at $6. I have $600,000 to the order bidder at $600. At $600, $650 now. $700, still with me at $7. At $700,000, say $750. Against you at $750 now, Ian. At $750 now, $800 to the absentee bidder at $800. Against you, Ian, at $800. Bidding? 850, 900. Still with me then at 900. Not your bid. My bidder at 900. At 900,000 here now at 900. At $900,000 then at 900. My order bidder at 900 against the room then at 900. At $900,000 then Ford at 900. At $900,000 then Ford at 9.
Remember, for the Carroll Shelby Foundation, we've got some good benefits for this car. Let's see if we can push it towards $1 million.
950 now at 950. Yours at 950? 950 then against you at 950. My bidder still here at 950. At $950,000 then here with me at 950. Order bid at $975 million now still with me at $1 million. Say $1.1 million. $1 million now at $1 million. I have $1 million order bid now at $1 million for it now. At $1 million, then Ford at $1 million. Now against you, Ian, at $1 million. I have $1 million now at $1 million. $1 million, then Ford at $1 million.
It's good. An original
At
$427.
$1 million now at $1 million. $1.1 million with you. Oh, all the way back, Donnie. Then thank you at $1.1 million. $1.2 million now still back to me. One more time. $1.2 million to the order bidder at $1.2 million. Got anything to say, Donnie? I can't hear you. $1.2 million against you, ahead of you. My bidder at $1.2 million. $1,200,000, not your bid, Donnie, at $1.2 million. Say $1,250,000. $1.2 million to the order bidder at $1,200,000. Are we done? At $1,200,000, say $1,250,000. At $1.2 million now. $1,200,000, the last chance then. At $1,250,000 now at $1,250,000. Donnie's bid at $1,250,000 now at $1,250,000. $1,250,000 on my right then at $1,250,000. $1,250,000. Donnie's bid, and against you all here now at $1,250,000. Last chance. Fair warning at $1,250,000. Sold. Donnie, your bid $1,250,000.
On behalf of the Carroll Shelby Foundation, I thank you all this evening.
Thank you. Lot 120, the 2012 Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport. Consider, if you will, its specifications. Well over 1,000 horsepower, 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, 10 radiators, and a top speed of 250 miles per hour. This supercar, to end all supercars, only 150 Grand Sports were built, and this one has only ever had one owner and 1,100 miles from new. If you love these colors as much as we do, this is essentially a brand new Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport from 2012. It is lot 120.
Started at 800, now at 800. We have $800,000 to begin it, now at 800. At $800,000, then at 800. At $800,000 now Ford at 800. I have 800. At 800, 850 now. Yes, 850 ahead of you at 850. 900,000 now on the left. 900 on my left now at 950. Yes, at 950 now at 950. At 950 now say $1 million. At $950,000, then Ford at 950 now at 950. At $950,000 and Ford at $950 million now at $1 million. At $1 million, what's that? $1.1 million now at $1.1 million. At $1,100,000 now at $1.1 million. At $1,100,000 now at $1.1 million. $1,100,000 now at $1.1 million. I have $1,100,000 now. Say two. $1,100,000 then Ford at $1.1 million. At $1,100,000 then Ford at $1.1 million. $1,100,000, $1.2 million. Your bid, sir. At $1.2 million now at $1.2 million. On the aisle at $1.2 million. $1.3 million now at $1.3 million. At $1,003,000 and against you at $1,003,000. At $1,300,000, not yours. It's at $1,003,000. At $1,300,000, now say 4. $1,300,000 now at $1,003,000. I have $1,003,000, $1,004,000 with you, David. At $1,004,000 on my right now at $1,004,000. At $1,400,000, $500,000 now at $1,005,000. At $1,500,000 now at $1,005,000. At $1,500,000, then Ford at $1,005,000 now. At $1,500,000 are we done at $1,005,000. At $1,500,000, then Ford at $1,005,000 now. $1,005,000. $1,500,000, then Ford at $1,005,000. We all done then at $1,500,000 and for it at $1,500,000 and last chance then at $1,500,000 and fair warning then at $1,500,000. Fair warning at $1,500,000. Passed a lot on $1,500,000.
Lot 121, the 1932 Bentley 8-liter Tour. All WA Bentleys are impressive driver's cars, 3 liters, 4.5, 6.5. But this is the pinnacle. The 8-liter Bentley, one of only 100 built. Of those, how many claim to have some stunning Le Mans VDP coachwork, much less with the original engine and chassis? The answer is really only one other car, the impossibly valuable Vivian Hewitt car 5119. But largely out of sight for many decades, and with a comprehensive 24-page report by Claire Hay, this moment, this offering is therefore completely unrepeatable. With beautiful Le Mans style coachwork, the 8-liter Bentley is lot 121.
Thank you, Ellen. Let's start it now at $800,000 for it at $800,000. Is that a bid, Ernie? At $800,000. At $800,000, then at $800,000. At $800,000 now for it at $800,000. At $800,000, $850,000, your bid now at $850,000. At $850,000 on the right-hand side now. At $850,000, $900,000. $900,000 I have now. At $900,000 now at $900,000. Say $950,000. $1 million now at $1,000,000. $1,050,000. At $1,050,000 at $1,001,000 now at $1,001,000. $1,001,50,000. At $1,100,000. $1,002,000 with you, Jonathan. $1,200,000 now at $1,002,000. Say 3. At $1,200,000 now at $1,002,000. At $1,200,000 then Ford at $1,002,000. $1,250,000 then at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 now at $1,003,000 I have now at $1,003,000. $50,000 now at $1,350,000. Against you. $1,350,000 with me then at $1,350,000 now. At $1,350,000 say $1,004,000. $1,350,000 now at $1,350,000. $1,400,000 now at $1,004,000. $1,004,000 left side then at $1,004,000. At $1,400,000 now at $1,004,000. $1,005,000 now at $1,005,000. At $1,500,000 now at $1,005,000. At $1,500,000 now at $1,005,000. $1,500,000 then Ford at $1,005,000. $1,500,000. $1,550,000. $1,550,000 then for it at $1,550,000. At $1,550,000 then at $1,550,000. At $1,550,000 then at $1,550,000. Off the reserve then at $1,550,000. It's here at $1,550,000. Selling at $1,550,000 then for it at $1,550,000. At $1,550,000 anymore. We're selling it then at $1,550,000. Any advance above $1,550,000, all done now at $1,550,000. Left side with Jonathan, $1,550,000. Last chance. Sold. Yours, Jonathan, $1,550,000. 184.
Lot 122, the 1965 Jaguar E-Type Series 1 Roadster. And certainly what could be more quintessentially E-Type than this? Covered headlights, the 4.2-liter motor, and original hardtop in original green over green colors. Not to mention matching numbers and a solid rust-free original car before restoration even began. If ever there was an English roadster to buy, enjoy, drive, and value, this is it. Lot 122, the E-Type Series 1 4.2-liter Roadster.
All right, estimates $250,000. Beginning now without reserve, started at 100. Do we have $100,000? 100, thank you, at 100. Ahead of you, 110, now at 110 and back. 110 in the rear, now at 110. 110,000 now, say 120. 120 now at 120, nearest me at 120. 130 where you have it now at 130. 140, right up front at 140. 150 with you then. 140 here still at 140. 140 your bid now at 140. At $140,000 now at 140. Against you left. 140. I have 140. 150 in back. Thank you. $150,000 now at 150. 160. My bidder then at $160,000 now at 160 near me. At 160 up front then at 160. $160,000 and against you all in the rear. At 160 near me, then at 160. 170 now at 170. 175 near me now at 175. 175 here, then at 175. Up front at 175 now. At 175 near me, at 175. 180, Gus. 180 in back then at 180. Any advance? It's 180 now. $180,000 with you, Gus, at 180. You sure? 180 now. Bidding? 185 where you've called. I've got it now. 185. Thank you. At 185 with Jack. Then at 185. 190. That's yours. 190. Thank you now very much, Brent. 190. On the left-hand side now at 190. Well, I don't know where it's coming from, but I hear it. 200 in back. That's yours, Gus, now at Gus. 200, then at 200. Rear center at 200, now at 200,000. 205, I've got it now, 205. $205,000 now at 205, say 210. 205 on my left with Brent then. 205, not your bid. $205,000. We all done it, 205,000. 210. Your bid, Gus, at 210. $210,000 now at 210. Not yours, Brent. $210,000. It's in the center. In the rear of the room at 210. We done now at 210. At $210,000 we threw. At 220, I'll take it at 220 now. All through? $220,000 now at 220. $220,000, last chance then. At $220,000 at 220. Fair warning now. $220,000 left side at 220. Going once, going twice, 230. $230,000, that's your bid at 230. That's too late for a $5,000 bid. $230,000 here now at 230. At $230,000, that's your bid. At $230,000 now in the center at 230. Your turn, Brent, 230. $230,000 now in the rear center of the room. $230,000 all done now at $230,000. Last chance. 230 going once, going twice. Sold. $230,000. There you go. $7,945. I thank you.
Lot 123 is truly a rarity and rarely offered publicly. The 1939 BMW 328 from the Nürburgring to the Mille Miglia. These are the roadsters that made BMW a motorsport powerhouse. And today it's no different. Few cars are as thrilling to drive on the California Mille or the Colorado Grand, and this one is documented with endless paperwork, an uprated Synchromesh gearbox, by the way, and a recent service by none other than Kevin Kay. Lot 123, we're very excited to present a 1939 BMW 328.
Unreserved tonight to be sold to the highest bidder. Let's start it at 250. Do we have 250 to begin it? 250,000, 250 where you've called it then, Jonathan, at 250. At $250,000 now at 250, say 275. At 250, I have it now at 250. At $250,000 then at 250. At 250, 275, right side at 275. At 275,000. 300? 300, thank you now. Pete at 300. Big bidding Pete at 300. At $300,000 now at 300. At $300,000 now at 300. Against you, Jonathan, at 300. At 300 now with Pete. At $300,000 now at 300. Only at $300,000 now at 300. I'll sell it. 325 now at 325 in the rear center. At 325 now at 325. 350 now at 350 on my right with Jack. At 350 now at $350,000. At $350,000 now at 350. At $350,000 now at 350. 375, that's yours, Pete. 375 now at 375. 400, thank you, Jack. At 400 now, I have 4. Say 425. 400 against you now. It's 400 on my right. And I'll sell it for $400,000 then at 400. At $400,000, we all done at 400. I had a sense that's where you were going, Pete. I'm losing faith in you, fella. 410. At $410,000 now at 410. 420 now with you. At yours, Jonathan, at 420. 430 now at 430. $430,000 over here now at 430. What did I hear? 450. Thank you, Gord. At $450,000 now at 450. At 450,000 where you've called it, Gord, at 450. Not your bid, guys. At 450 with Gord then. $450,000. Any more? We'll sell it then at $450,000. At $450,000 for the BMW. 460. Brent's bid now at 460. 470. Jack at 470 now at 470. I have 470. 480 with Brent. 500. 500,000 on the right now at 500. On my right then at 5. Are you bidding? It's $500,000 and at 500. At $500,000 and against you at 500. It's $500,000 and Ford at 5. On my right, your bid, Jack. At $500,000 and Ford at 5. Last chance then. At $500,000. Fair warning then. Going once, going twice. At $500,000. Sold. Your bid at $500,000. Paddle number?
8057, Gord. 8057. Lot 124 is the 1965 Shelby GT350. Not just any Shelby Mustang, but a proper R model. This being an early car and the class winner at the 1967 12 Hours of Sebring, the year it secured the B Production Championship, and the year, and this, by the way, after famed Grand Prix racer Pedro Rodriguez beat not only Jerry Titus in a factory prototype, but even a comp spec 289 Cobra. This car was that competitive. Here in Mexican racing colors, one of the very desirable Mustang GT350 Rs, lot 124.
We begin it at $400,000, here at $400. I have $400,000 now to begin it. At $400,000 now at $400. At $400 and $425 now at $425. At $425 now at $450. Your bid, Jonathan, at $450. At $450 now at $450. I'm at 47. Was that 500 now at 500 I have on the right-hand side. 50 now at 550 against you both. At $550,000 now against you. At $550,000 now say 6. $550,000. 600 your bid now, Gord, at 600. At 600 on my right at $600,000. Then at 600 now say yes, 650. At $650,000 now against you at 650. At $650,000 at 650. At $650,000 now at 650 say 7. I have $650,000 then Ford at 650. $650,000 now at 650. At 650 say 7. $650,000 then Ford at 650. At $650,000 now Ford at 650 say 700. 650 then at 650. At $650,000 are we done then at 650. $650,000 now Ford at 650. At $650,000 fair warning us. At $650,000 we done then. At $650,000. 675 then at 675. At 675 then at 675. At $675,000 then Ford at 675. The reserve is off, ladies and gentlemen. We are selling it at $675,000 then at 675. $675,000 then Ford at 675. At $675,000 Ford at 675. At $675,000 anymore at 675. Selling it now for $675,000 at 675. Fair warning, last chance at 675. Sold 675 to your bidder, Gord. 7025 is what I heard.
As did I. Lot 125, the 1966 Ford GT40, offered today after a quarter century with the same owner. This being one of only 31 road spec Mark I cars built, complete with its original engine and both a restoration and research conducted by Mark specialists. In fact, it was a car so pure and original before restoration that it became the first of many GT40 restorations by Robert Ashe, and today, with its original Barani wire wheels in tow as well, and a fresh engine rebuild just last year, is there, was there, and will there ever be an American sports car as magnificent as a Ford GT40? This is lot 125, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Alan. We begin the bidding here at now at $1,800,000. Now at $1,800,000. $1,800,000 now Ford at $1,800,000. $1,800,000 now at $1,800,000. $1,800,000, say $1,900,000. $1,800,000 now at $1,800,000. At $1,800,000 now Ford at $1,800,000, say $1,900,000. $1,900,000 then at $1,900,000 now at $1,900,000. I have $1,900,000 now at $1,900,000, say 2. At $1,900,000 now Ford at $1,900,000. Bidding $2 million. Donnie's bid at 2. At $2 million now at 2. At $2 million now at $2 million at 2. On the phone at 2. $2,100,000 then at $2,100,000. At $2,100,000 now at $2,100,000. $2,200,000. $2,300,000. $2,300,000 then. What's that? $2,300,000. $2,300,000. I have it then at $2,300,000 with Donnie then at $2,300,000. At $2,300,000 now $2,400,000. At $2,400,000 against you now at $2,400,000. At $2,400,000. $2,500,000 ahead of you still at $2,500,000. At $2,500,000 now at $2,500,000. At $2,500,000 now Ford at $2,500,000. $2,500,000. $2,600,000. Donnie's bid at $2,600,000 now at $2,600,000. At $2,600,000 now at $2,600,000. Donnie's bid at $2,600,000 now at $2,600,000. $2,600,000 then Ford at $2,600,000. All right, then $2,700,000 now at $2,700,000. At $2,700,000 now at $2,700,000. At $2,700,000 now Ford at $2,700,000. At $2,700,000 now more at $2,700,000. $2,700,000 now Ford at $2,700,000. $2,700,000 and against you now, Donnie. At $2,700,000 then Ford at $2,700,000. $2,700,000 and Ford at 2.7. At $2,700,000 and Ford at 2.7. All done. At $2,700,000 and Ford at 2,700,000. We threw at $2,700,000 and fair warning at $2,700,000. Not your bid, Donnie. Passed a lot at $2,700,000.
Lot 126, my colleague has generously reminded me that this is Reliable's pick of the day. Our partners, Reliable, will transport this car free of charge, so thank you to them. This is the 1954 Arnolt-Bristol Deluxe Roadster. What a fabulous, fabulous car. Bertone styling, Bristol power plant, and an exacting restoration by specialists of the mark, followed by a showing at Pebble Beach just last year. Only about 20 of these cars were built a year, and today they're truly superior event cars. And great fun to drive, we might add. This is lot 126.
$250 million begin. $250,000 starts it now at $250,000. $250 million is a little rich now at $250,000. At $250,000. $250,000, then Ford at $250. With me then at $250 to begin it at $250. At $250,000 then at $250. $250,000 now at $250. At $250,000 now at $250, say $275. $250. Do we have $275? $250 here. At $250, $275, yes, at $275. Now at $275 and $300 against you now at $300. At $300,000 now at $325. Your bid now at $325. At your bid then Gord at $323. $50 ahead of you now at $350. At $350,000 now at $350. $375, your bid now at $375. That's yours, sir. At $375, $375, yes. At $375, $400 now at $400. At $400, $425. $400 then against you at $400. At $400,000 then at $4. At $400,000 then Ford at $4. At $400,000 now are we through. At $400,000 then Ford at $4. $410. What's you're losing the faith. At $400,000 now at $400. At $400,000 then Ford at $4. At $400,000 we done at $400. At $400,000, all done then at $400,000. One more bid. At $400,000, not yours. $405. At $405,000 then in the room at $405,000 then at $405,000. At $405,000 then Ford at $405. At $405,000 then at $405. Your bid, sir. At $405,000. Right center of the room at $405. $405,000. Are we through? $405, your bid, sir, at $405, and last chance. Sold, $405,000. Hold your paddle up for me. $672.
Lot 127, ladies and gentlemen, the 1955 Ferrari 750 Monza. We have a treat this evening. We're delighted that former Grand Prix Formula One driver and the force behind Chaparral racing cars, Mr. Jim Hall, is here to tell us about this car from his personal collection. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
This old car is pretty special to me. I grew up with a big brother that looked after his kid brother pretty good. And he taught me a lot about everything I grew up with. When he went to Dallas and joined in with Carroll Shelby in a sports car dealership in the middle 50s, I went down there after my first year in college, and he said, hey, let's go look at a 550 Porsche of some kind across town. We went over there, and we were looking at it, and the guy in the garage said, hey, if you want to really buy a race car, look at that car over there. And we went over there and looked at it, and between the two of us, we decided somehow we'd come up with enough money to buy it, and that's what we did. So we bought this car in '55. it won. The guys, Carroll Shelby and Phil, thought they won Sebring in it in 55, but after a recount, they didn't. And then Phil brought it to Pebble Beach, and he won that race. And, you know, I got to drive it after that, and I won my first sports car race in this car right here, which is the first of a long career that I had a great time in racing.
And Jim, you've owned this car for 60 years as its second owner. We're so thrilled you've joined us today. It's a car so perfectly preserved that tells the story of Phil Hill and Carroll Shelby, as you said, who took the checkered flag at Sebring here in its proper American racing colors. Who better to tell us about it? The very best of the 750 Monzas, Jim Hall's own 750 Monza, lot 127. Bill.
Thank you very much. Let's start the bidding on this at $2 million. $2 million to begin it now at $2 million. I have $2 million now at $2 million, say 2-1. At $2 million, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3. $3 million now at $3 million. That's your bid now at $3 million. Donnie at $3 million. At $3 million now at $3 million one. Now at $3 million one ahead of you. At $3,100,000 now say 3-2. At $3,100,000 now at $3 million one. At $3,100,000 now at $3 million one. At $3,100,000 then forward at $3 million one. I have $3 million one now at $3 million two. Your bid, Shelby, at $3 million two. I already had $3 million one. At $3,100,000, $3 million two now with Donnie at $3 million two. At $3,200,000 now at 3.5 now at $3,500,000 with Rob at $3 million five. At $3 million five. $3 million five. $3 million six. $3 million seven. At $3 million seven. Donnie's bid at $3.7. $4 million. At $4 million now at 4 with Rob now at $4 million. At $4 million now at 4. Selling now at $4 million. The reserve is off at $4 million at $4 million. At $4 million now at $4 million. At $4 million, then Ford at 4. I have $4 million now at $4 million. Any more? It's $4 million. At $4 million now Ford at 4. On my right, up front at $4 million at $4 million. At $4 million 50. $4 million 1. Head of you, Shelby, at a $4 million 1. Rob's bid at $4 million 1. $4,100,000 now at $4 million 1. Stick with me here now at $4,100,000 now at $4 million 1. $4,100,000. $4,150,000. $4 million 2. Rob's bid at $4 million 2. At $4,200,000 now at $4 million 2. $4,200,000 now at $4 million 2. $4,250,000. $4 million 3. $4 million 3. These 50s aren't working, Shelby. You want to try something else? At $4 million 3. At $4,300,000 now at $4 million 3. At $4 million 3. Rob's bid at $4 million 3. At $4,300,000 now at $4 million 3. $4,350,000 now at $4,350,000. $4 million 4. $4,400,000. Not your bid, Shelby. $4 million 4. $4 million 4. Bidding? $4,400,000. $4,450,000 now at $4,450,000.
Bill?
$4,500,000. $4,500,000 now at $4,500,000 at $4,500,000. Try $4,600,000, Shelby. $4,600,000? My God, you're listening for once in your life. $4,600,000 at $4,600,000. $4,650,000? $4,650,000 at $4,650,000 now at $4,650,000. $4,650,000 now at $4,650,000. $4,650,000 all done at $4,650,000. Not your bid, Shelby. $4,650,000. Rob's bidder at $4,650,000 going once, at $4,650,000 going twice, at $4,750,000. Why not less? $4,700,000 at $4,700,000. $4,800,000. $4,700,000 now at $4,700,000. $4,700,000 then Ford at $4,700,000. $4,750,000 at $4,750,000. $4,750,000. Say 8. $4,750,000 then at $4,750,000. $4,750,000 at $4,750,000. Rob's bidder at $4,750,000. Fair warning then, last chance at $4,750,000. Going once, going twice at $4,750,000. Sold for $4,750,000. Rob's bidder.
Lot 128, the 1954 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing. Jim Hall clearly rarely parts with his cars. He bought this Gullwing the year he bought the Monza 6 decades ago, and also from its second owner, Mr. Tilt, the famous race team owner. It's amazingly original, and the finish you see here is the one Jim applied right after he bought it. The original upholstery, the Rudge wheels, it's nothing short of a time capsule, and we're honored to have it. Lot 128, Jim Hall's personal Gullwing.
Spectacular Gullwing, as you say, a time machine. $600,000 starts it now at $600,000. We have $600,000 now to start it at $600,000. Here with me at $600,000. At $625,000 now at $625,000. At $625,000 now at $625,000. At $625,000 at $625,000 here at $625,000. Now say $650,000, $625,000, $650,000. Your bid, Gord, at $650,000. At $650,000 on my right, then it's $675,000. At $675,000, $700,000. Now at $700,000. $725,000. Now at $725,000. $750,000. $750,000. At $750,000 now at $750,000. $775,000. At $775,000 now at $775,000. $800,000. At $800,000 now at $800,000. $825,000. $850,000 now at $850,000. Here now at $850,000. $875,000. At $875,000 now at $875,000. Say 9. $900,000 yours, Gord, now at $900,000. At $900,000 on my right now at $900,000. Selling. The reserve is off at $900,000. At $900,000 now at $9. $950,000 on the left, then at $950,000 now. At $950,000 against you, Gord. $950,000 now at $950,000. $950,000 now Ford at $950,000. On my left. $950,000 anymore. at $950 and selling it then at $950,000. We threw left side halfway back at $950,000. Last chance at $950. Sold to $950,000. $8037, I thank you both.
Lot 129, for which the title is in transit, is the 1953 Moretti 750 Grand Sport Berlinetta, which we're delighted to present from the collection of Skip Barber. And it's the first of very few imported to the United States by none other than Ernie McAfee. It's since been fully restored and had its engine rebuilt, and I'm certain you can't have more fun in driving than in a little sports car like this. It's great fun. Lot 129, the 1953 Moretti.
Unreserved this evening for the Moretti. And I've got an order bid to start it off at $40,000, $50,000 now with me at $50,000 already here. $50,000 now, say 55. 55, 60 with me at 60 to the order bidder. Say 65, sir. 65 I have now. In the center of the room at 65. At 65 in the room now at 65. 70 now at 70. 75. I have 75. At 75 in the center, then where I've called it at 75. 80, Steph's bid now at 80. At $80,000 now for it at 80. Say 85. One more. One more bid. 90. 85 all the way back then at 85. At $85,000 then at 85. In the rear of the room at 85. At 90 now Steph's bidder at 90. At 90,000 here now at 90. At $90,000 then Ford at 90. At $90,000 then Ford at 90. Any more? With $90,000 then Ford at 90,000. It's $90,000 on my right with Stephanie at 90,000. We threw at $90,000 at 90. Not your bid, sir. At 90,000. Last chance at $90,000. We all threw over here at 90. Oh, we got a bid now at 95 with you, Jack, at 95. Not your bid. It's 95 ahead of you, Pete, at 95. In the room with Jack at 95. In the right side now at 95. 100 then at your bid now at 100. At $100,000 now at 100. $100,000 now at $100,000 now for it at 100. Your bid, Pete, at 100. At $100,000, 105. Your bid, sir, at 100. Yes? No? Maybe? No. 110 here now at 110. At 110 ahead of you both now at 110. At $110,000 now for it at 110. On the telephone. At 110,000 now at 110. Bidding? At 110,000. Not your bid. All right, then at 110,000 we threw at 110. 110,000. 115 standing now at 115. 120. $120,000 and against you, sir, at 120. 120 and against you now at 120,000. Not your bid. At $120,000. Fair warning then at 120,000. It's on the phone at 120 and not your bid. $120,000. Last chance at $120,000. Sold 120. Your bid, Steph. 7814.
Lot 130, the 1930 Cadillac Sport Phaeton on the mighty V16 chassis. Only 17 have survived in this style, and it truly is one of Fleetwood's greatest presentations. Owned by several prominent and astute collectors, the car presents absolutely beautifully. Lot 130 is the 1930 Cadillac Sport Phaeton.
$275 to begin it now. $275,000 for the V16. $275,000 now for it at $275. At $275,000 now, $275. $275,000 now, say $300. $300 now with you then at $300. At $300,000 on my right at $300. At $300,000 then Ford at $300. At $300,000 on my right, $325 now at $325. At $325 now at $325. Against you at 350 then. Your bid then at 350. Is that you, Donnie? 350 then at 350. How are you? You look beautiful. 350. At $350,000 then at 350. At 350 now, say 375. 350 on my right now at 350. Standing at 375 now at 375. At 375 now, say 400. 400. Donnie's bid at 400. And 25. Now at 25 at 425. All done then. At $425,000 then at 425. 450 now in time at 450. At $450,000 standing at 450,000 now, Ford at 450. At $450,000 then Ford at 450. 475. At 475 now at 475. Say 5. $500,000 now at 5 with Jonathan at 500. On the telephone now at 500. And I'll sell it at $500,000. Then at 5, it's 500. On the telephone at 500. 525, Pete? Thank you, sir, at 525. At 525, then at 525. 550. Against you, Pete. 550 on the phone. On the telephone at 550. 575. Good to hear from you. 575. At 575, 600,000 now at 600. At 600,000 and against you now at 600. Say 25. $600,000 then Ford at 6. On the phone now at 600. At $600,000 then Ford at 6. At $600,000 then Ford at 6. Any more at 600. At $600,000 then Ford at 6. We done at $600,000 then Ford at 6. At $600,000, I'll sell it then at $600,000. $610. At $610,000 now Ford at 610. 625. At 625 now at 625. $625,000 now Ford at 625. 625 now at 625. At $625,000 then Ford at 625. Jonathan's bid now at $625,000. We all done at 625. 625 and against the rest of you here at 625,000. Last chance, 625. Sold, 625. Your bid, Jonathan. 7487.
97. 7497.
7497.
Lot 131, a slight correction to the catalog copy. This car was not shown at the Geneva Motor Show in 1953, but it is, nevertheless, as always, the 1953 Ferrari 212 Europa Coupe with coachwork by Pininfarina. A proper connoisseur's Ferrari owned by a connoisseur. Preeminent Ferrari restorer Wayne Obrey enjoyed and fully restored this car, making it apparently the first Ferrari to score 100 points at Pebble Beach. The deserving recipient of numerous awards since then, it is unquestionably one of the finest event cars. The Colorado Grand Mille Miglia, it is eligible for virtually everything. Lot 131, the ex-Wayne Obrey 1952 Ferrari 212 Europa Coupe.
And we begin now at $600,000 on this lot, now at 600. At $600,000 now at 600. At 600, 650 now with you, Pete, at 650. At 650, 700 ahead of you now at 700. 750 now at 750. $800 now, 800,000 now with me, still at 800. At $800,000 now at 800. At $800,000 and Ford at 800. 825, your bid at 825. At 825, 800 on the right, then at 850 now. At $850,000, then Ford at 850, say 875. 875, now at 875 on my right, then at 875. At $875,000, not yours, it's 900 now. At $900,000 now at 9. 25. 900, then Ford against you now at 900. $900,000 now, Ford at 9. And 925 in a new spot now at 925. 950 now at $950,000, then Ford at 950. At 950 now with me at 950, say 975. $950,000, then Ford at 950. At 950. All done then at 950. At $950,000, then Ford at 950. All through at 950. At $950,000 anymore at 950. 975. Your bid then at 975. Yes, at 975. Ladies bid at 975. Thank you, at 975. In the center of the room at 975. Now at $1 million, now at $1 million. At $1 million, now at $1 million. $1 million now, $1,050,000, then at $1,050,000. Now at $1,050,000 and $1,001,000. Now at $1,100,000, now at $1,001,000. $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. Say $1,150,000. $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. Not your bid then. At $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. At $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. Any more? At $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. All done. At $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. Not your bid. At $1,100,000, then Ford at $1,001,000. Last chance. At $1,100,000. Not your bid now at $1,100,000, and fair warning at $1,001,000. And then we will pass that at $1,001,000.
Lot 132, the 2001 Ferrari 550 Barchetta Pininfarina, an instant collector car from the moment it was unveiled, and a proper roadster with only an emergency top for inclement weather, not to mention, again, the true 6-speed gearbox. 3,500 miles from new, Classic A certification, complete with books and tools, and even original helmets. This is one of the very best. Lot 132 is the 2001 Ferrari 550 Barchetta Pininfarina.
Bidding now begins at $225 for it. Now at $225,000 at $225. I have now $225. Tasting $250. $225,000 now at $225. At $225,000, say $250. $250. Your bidder, Barney, at $250. At $250 now, $275 at $275. At $275 now, Ford at $275. Say $3. At $275,000 now, Ford at $275. At $275,000, $300,000. Your bid now, Gord, at $3. At $300,000 now at $325 now at $325. At $325 now at $325. $350 now at $350. Gord's bidder at $350 against you, Barney, at $350. $375 now at $375. I have $375 now, say $4. At $375, then Ford at $375. At $375,000 now, Ford at $375. $375,000 now, Ford at $375. All done. At $375, then at $375. $375, then Ford at $375. All done then at $375. At $375,000, then Ford at $375. Fair warning then at $375,000. All done at $375. Pass a lot at $375.
Lot 133 is the 1961 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Roadster. What a fabulous color, ladies and gentlemen. It's known as Fantasy Yellow, and it's original to this car, as it is to only 4 other Roadsters. This one is particularly well equipped with Rudge wheels, books, tools, fitted luggage, and those beautiful European specification headlights that you see before you. The photo-documented restoration, by the way, really speaks to the quality of this presentation. A very rare Fantasy Yellow 300 SL Roadster is lot 133.
Thank you, Alan. Let's start the bidding here at $700,000, Ford at $700. We have $700,000 now, Ford at $7. At $700,000 now, Ford at $7. We have $700. At $700,000, then Ford at $7. Say $50. At $700,000 now, say $750. At $700,000, Ford at $7. Now I have $7. At $700,000, all right, now $750 then at $750. At $750,000 now say $8. $800,000, yours now at $800. At $800, Gord's bidder now at $808. 850, yes, at 850. At $850,000 now at 859. Your bid now, Steph, at 9. 950 now, ahead of you both at 950 now at 950. At $950,000 now at 950. At $950,000 then Ford at 950. Now say $1 million. $950,000 then Ford at 950. At 950. Million. At $1 million now at $1 million. At $1 million then Ford at $1 million. 1,000,001 now at $1,000,001. At $1,100,000 now at against you, Steph, at $1,000,001. At $1,100,000 now say 50. At $1,000,001 then Ford at $1,000,001. At $1,100,000 now at $1,000,001. At $1,100,000 now Ford at $1,000,001. At $1,100,000 then Ford at $1,000,001 anymore at $1,000,001. At $1,100,000 are we all done at $1,000,001. And fair warning then for the 300 SL at $1,100,000. Past the lot on $1,000,001.
Lot 134, the 1968 Lotus 56 Indianapolis, a car that was purpose-built for the Indy 500 from the genius mind of Andy Granatelli, who found a way of harnessing hundreds of pounds of torque from a Pratt & Whitney turbine engine. 4 Lotus 56s were built, 3 entered at Indy, and this one being the one piloted by the famous Graham Hill, who set a new speed record of 171.2 miles per hour. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the world's most groundbreaking racing cars. The turbine-powered 1968 Lotus 56 Indianapolis. To me, that sounds like a Pratt & Whitney helicopter engine, but it's sitting on 4 wheels, 4-wheel drive, and let's hope that torque doesn't rip this carpet apart. Lot 134.
All right, let's start it off at $400,000 and at $400,000. At $400,000 then Ford at $400,000 and $425,000 now at $425,000. At $425,000 then Ford at $425,000. At $425,000 now Ford at $425,000. At $425,000 now say $50,000. $425,000 then at $425,000. $425,000 then Ford at $425,000. Say $450,000. $425,000 then Ford at $425,000. $450,000 now I have it at $450,000 now at $450,000 and $475,000. At $475,000 now at $475,000. I have $500,000 now Ford at $5,000. At $500,000 then Ford at $5,000. At $525,000 and against you now at $525,000. At $525,000 then Ford at $525,000. Say $550,000. $525,000. At $525,000 then Ford at $525,000. Any more at $525,000. At $525,000 then Ford at $525,000. Any more. At $525,000 then Ford at $525,000. We done. At $525,000. And fair warning at $525,000. Unsold at $525,000.
Lot 135, for which the title is in transit, is the 1950 Jaguar XK120 Roadster. Not just any Roadster, but one of the limited few built with alloy bodies at the start of production. This one presents superbly in its original colors, its numbers match, and the restoration is stunning. Commissioned by only its 3rd owner from new. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know how rare these cars are. This is an alloy-bodied 1950 Jaguar XK120.
All right, for the XK120, now let's start it at $200,000. At $200,000 now at $200,000 and $225,000. At $225,000 now Ford at $225,000. $230,000 then at $230,000. I have $230,000 now. At $230,000, $240,000. At $240,000 now Ford at $240,000. At $240,000 then Ford at $240,000. At $250,000 now at $250,000. At $250,000 now say $60,000. $260,000 then at $260,000. $70,000 now at $270,000 now at $270,000 and $80,000. $280,000 now at $280,000. $280,000 then Ford at $280,000. Any more at $280,000 then Ford at $280,000? I have $280,000 all done at $280,000. Any advance above $280,000 Last chance at 200, 285. Here's Barney then at 285. 285. Here at 285. 290 now. Yours at 290. Ahead of you at 290. Not your bid, Barney, at 290. Say 300. 300 against you both now at 300. I have $300,000 now. Ford at 300. At 300,000, say 310. At 300,000 now at 300. 300,000 then at 310. Your bidder, Gus, at 310. 310 where you've called it at 310. That's your bid in the center then at 310. 310,000 in the center of the room at 310. At $310,000 now at 310. $320,000 now at 320. At 320. At 320. Now say 30. $320,000 then Ford at 320. $320,000 then Ford at 320. At $320,000 all done then at 320. At $320,000 are we all done? $330,000 now at 330. At $330,000 then Ford at 330. At $330,000 then Ford at 330. $340,000 now at 340. Say $350,000. It's $340,000 now Ford at 340. At $350,000 now at 350. At $350,000 now in the center of the room at 350. Your bid, ma'am, at $350,000 now at 350. I'll sell it at $350,000 then at 350. At $350,000, that's your bid, ma'am. At $350,000 then at 350. Fair warning, $350,000. Last chance, going once, going twice. Sold, $350,000. Thank you very much. 7138.
The following cars are offered from the esteemed collection of Jim Click, who, as you can see, has stated he never collected cars for the sake of collecting, but rather to use them as they were intended, to race. And that he's done so very successfully alongside SCCA legend Don Roberts, who's essentially been his crew chief, coach, and team manager for the last 3 decades. Lot 136 is Mr. Click's car, the 1966 Shelby GT350, which won the 1970 SCCA B Production Southern Pacific Championship with Don Roberts behind the wheel. Jim has raced the car actively since the early 2000s, including just last year at the Monterey Historics. Lot 136, the GT350.
Thank you, Alan. Let's start this. This lot is being offered without reserve. Let's start it off at 125. We have 125,000 to begin it now at 125. 200,000 then at 200,000. Thank you, Gord, at 200. Now say 225. At 200,000 now Ford at 200. We have 200. On the right at 200. At $200,000 now say 225. At 200 then Ford at 2. At 200,000 then Ford at 2. At 200. Say 210. It's $200,000 now Ford at 2. At $200,000 then your bidder, Gord, at 200. At $200,000 then Ford at 200. At $200,000 then Ford at 2. We done at 200. At $200,000 then Ford at 2. We have 200,000. $200,000 then Ford at 200. Any more at 200. At $200,000 then Ford at 200. It's 200. $200,000 on my right up front with Gord at 200,000. Last chance then at $200,000 up front right at 200,000. Sold 200. Your bidder, Gord.
$7026, Gord. 7026. Ladies and gentlemen, please just nod if you can hear us or if you hear a ringing in your ears at this point. Lot 137 is the 1964 Shelby 289 Cobra, a car Jim first purchased in 1976 and again in 1981, before it was converted to vintage racing spec. Oh, and again in 2007. The point being, this is a very difficult car to part with. Consider, for example, that it won every single race it entered at last year's Monterey Historics. The brutally fast, blindingly competitive Lot 137 is the Shelby 289 Cobra.
Started at $500,000, now at $500,000. We have $500,000 to begin it, now at $500,000, $525,000, now at $525,000. At $525,000, now Ford at $525,000. At $525,000, say 50. $550,000 now at yours at $550,000. At $575,000, ahead of you now at $575,000. At $575,000 now at $575,000, say 6. At $575,000, then Ford at $575,000. At $575,000 now Ford at $575,000. At $575,000, then Ford at $575,000 now. At $575,000, then at $575,000. $600,000 now at 6. $625,000, yours at $625,000. $650,000 here at $650,000 now at $650,000 at $650,000. At $650,000, $700,000 now at $700,000. Your bid, Gord, $725,000. Jack's bid at $725,000. $750,000. At $750,000 here now at $750,000. At $750,000 now at $750,000. At $750,000, $775,000 now. At $775,000 now at $775,000. $800,000. $825,000, then yours at $825,000 in the center. At $825,000, gentleman's bid at $825,000 with you, Gus, at $825,000. At $825,000, then Ford at $825,000. At $825,000, then Ford at $825,000. In the center of the room, your bid, Gus, at $825,000. At $825,000, then Ford at $825,000. $840,000, then Ford at $840,000. At $840,000 now. Say $850,000. $840,000 against you now. $850,000 now at $850,000 now at $850,000. At $850,000, then Ford at $850,000. I'll sell it at $850,000 then at $850,000. At $850,000, it's in the center of the room at $850,000. I've got $850,000. Loud, please. $860,000. At $860,000 now at $860,000. Say $870,000. $860,000 here at $860,000. $870,000. $860,000 with Weaver then at $860,000. $860,000, are we done? At $860,000, fair warning, at $860,000, where you $870,000 now in time at $870,000. $870,000 now. Against you at $870,000. At $870,000, not your bid. In the back of the room at $870,000, are we done? At $870,000, gentleman's bid, rear center, $880,000. Now at $880,000 at $880,000. $880,000 now at $880,000. Say $890,000. $880,000 now at $880,000 on my right at $880,000. Any more? At $880,000, are we bidding? at $880,000. Last chance at $880,000. Not your bid. At $880,000. On my right, sold for $880,000. Your bid, Weaver.
7026, Gordon. 7026. Lot 138, the 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 302 Trans Am. Carcraft in Detroit built 3 of these before they were prepped by Shelby American for the 69 Trans Am season. But this is the only surviving car of the 3 assigned to Horace Queck and the famed Peter Revson for the season, with Dan Gurney and Parnelli Jones even getting behind the wheel as well. This truly is an amazing opportunity for a competition Mustang unlike any other. The ex-Peter Revson, now of course Jim Click, 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 302.
Thank you, Alan. And it starts at $500,000 now at $500. At $500,000 now Ford at $500 and $525. At $525 now at $525, $550 now at $550. At $550 now with me at $550. At $550,000 now at $550, say $575. At $550, then at $550, $575. At $575, I have now at $575, $6. At $600,000 now Ford at $6. I have $600,000 Ford at $600. At $600, say $25. At $600,000 then Ford at $600 with me at $600. $625 now at $625. I have $625 now at $625. $650 then at $650. At $650,000 then Ford at $650. At $650,000 Ford anymore. At $650,000 then Ford at $650. At $650,000 then Ford at $650. At $650,000 then Ford $650 anymore at $650. At $650,000 then Ford at $650. All done now at $650,000 then Ford at $650. $675, your bid at $675. At $675 now at $675. At $675,000 now Ford at $675. At $675, $700 against you now at $700. $700 I have now at $700. Now say $725. $700 then at $700. I have $700,000. Are we done then at $700? At $700,000 then going once. $725 now at $725. Your bid at $725. At $725,000 now say $750. At $750 now at $750. Not your bid. At $750 ahead of you now at $750. At $750,000 now $750 then at $750. I have $750,000 all done then at $750,000. Not your bid. At $750,000 going once at $750, going twice at $750,000, and fair warning at $750. Passed a lot at $750,000.
Lot 139, the 1970 Ford Mustang Boss 302 Carcraft Trans Am. These were the cars that beat the famous Sunoco Camaros in 1970. But this particular one is one of only 4 supplied in white for the 1971 season. Assigned to the famed George Fulmer and Peter Gregg of Brumos fame, it has, like all of Jim's cars, been tremendously successful in historic racing, winning the Trans Am race just last year at Monterey. This is the 70 Mustang Boss 302.
Thank you. $1 million to $1.3 million estimate. Let's start this at $300,000 now at $300. At $300,000 now at $300 and $325. At $325,000 at $325. At $325,000 now say $350. $325,000 now at $325. At $325,000 say $350. $325. I have $325 then Ford at $325. At $325,000 then Ford at $325. At $325,000 anymore at $325. $350. $375 then at $375. At $375 I have now at $375. At $375 then Ford at $375. At $375,000 then Ford at $375 anymore at $375. At $375,000 then Ford at $375 anymore at $375. At $375,000 then Ford at $375 anymore at $375. $375,000, 375. Any more than $375,000? At 375, 400, then where you've called it at 400. At 400,000, 425. Now and against you, sir, at 425. 50? 425 and against you now at 425. Say 50. At $425,000 now Ford at 425. At $425,000 now Ford at 425. At 425. All done at 425. Not your bid. At $425,000 then Ford at 425. At $425,000 all done then at 425. At $425,000 last chance at $425,000. Pass the lot at 425.
Lot 140, the 1964 Shelby 289 Competition Cobra. A car that's history has been almost unbelievable from day one. Purchased new by one of Carroll Shelby's employees, it was outfitted to competition spec, and over the following decades, accumulated such an astounding round of victories that it is regarded as the winningest Cobra of all time. With Don Roberts behind the wheel, absolutely, the car became the 1966 SCCA B Production National Champion with no less than 14 first-place finishes. In 2012, Jim Click then won his race at the Monterey Historics, repeating the same feat 25 years later. Lot 140 is the winningest Cobra of all time.
$1 million begins it here now at $1 million. We have $1 million to begin it now at $1 million, $1,000,001. $1,150,000 now at $1,150,000. At $1,150,000 now at $1,150,000, $1,200,000. $1,200,000 now at $1,200,000. At $1,200,000 now at $1,250,000. Now at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 now say $1,300,000. $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 now at $1,250,000 for it. Now at $1,250,000. For the Cobra at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 then Ford at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 then Ford at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 then Ford at $1,250,000. Now say $1,300,000. $1,250,000 then at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 now say $1,300,000. $1,250,000 then at $1,250,000 say $1,300,000. $1,300,000 I have now at $1,300,000. $1,300,000. $1,350,000 now at $1,350,000. At $1,350,000 now at $1,350,000. At $1,350,000 now at $1,400,000. At $1,400,000 now at $1,450,000 now at $1,450,000. At $1,450,000 now at $1,450,000. At $1,450,000 now Ford at $1,450,000. At $1,450,000 now Ford at $1,450,000. $1,450,000 we threw now at $1,450,000. $1,450,000 in fair warning then at $1,450,000 at $1,450,000. Pass the lot on $1,450,000.
Lot 141's last but certainly not least. The 1966 Ford GT40, one of the 31 Mark I road cars before being upgraded to a racing specification, and like Jim's other cars, it's been done so extremely successfully. Driven by Don Roberts at Watkins Glen in the late 1980s, the car finished first, even beating Sterling Moss, who was driving a 7-liter GT40. Bored out to 351 cubic inches and with about 450 horsepower, this is undoubtedly a race-winning formula. Lot 141 is the Ford GT40.
All right, now for the GT40. Superb automobile. Started at $1,700,000, now at $1,700,000. We have $1,700,000 for it, now at $1,700,000. $1,700,000, $1,800,000, now at $1,800,000. $1,900,000, now with me at $1,900,000. $1,900,000, now at $1,900,000. $2 million. Ahead of you now at $2 million, now at $2 million. Say 2-1. 2-1 in the center, now at 2-1. 2-2. Now at $2,200,000, now at $2,200,000. At $2,200,000, then Ford at 2-2. Say 2-3. At $2,200,000, then Ford at 2-2. At $2,250,000, then at $2,250,000. At $2,003,000, now at $2,003,000. Gord's bid now at $2,003,000. $2,350,000, now at $2,350,000. At $2,350,000, now Ford at $2,350,000. Say $2,004,000. $2,004,000 I have now. At $2,400,000, now say 50. At $2,004,000, now at $2,004,000. $2,400,000, then at $2,004,000. At $2,400,000 at 2.4. At $2,500,000 now at $2,500,000. I have $2,500,000 now at 2.5. 2,550 now at $2,550,000. Say 6. $2,600,000 then I have at $2,600,000. $2,600,000 now at $2,600,000. At $2,600,000 at $2,600,000. At $2,600,000 at $2,600,000. $2,650,000 then at $2,650,000. At $2,600,000, $2,700,000 now at $2,700,000. At $2,700,000, then Ford at 2.7. $2,700,000. At $2,700,000, then Ford at 2,700,000. Any advance above $2,700,000, then Ford at 2.7. I have $2,700,000 all through now at $2,700,000, and last chance at $2,700,000. Passed a lot at $2,700,000.
Lot 142, the 2008 Ford Mustang FR 500S. Only 77 of these were made, and they're excellent, track-ready, purpose-built cars. After racing in the 2008 and 2010 Ford Racing Mustang Challenge, all proceeds will benefit the Malcolm Smith Motorsports Foundation. A very, very worthy cause indeed. Lot 142 is the 2008 Ford Mustang FR 500S.
Without reserve, start the bidding at $15,000. Do we have $15,000 to begin it? $10,000. Let's go. $10,000. We have $10,000 to begin it. All the way back, $10,000. He's a winner at $10,000. At $10,000 in the rear of the room now at 10. 12.5 now at 12.5. Up front at 12.5. 15. Your bid, Gord, now at $15,000. Now at 15. At $15,000, then Ford at 15. Your bidder, Gord, at $15,000. At 17.5 with you then, Brent. 17.5, now say 20. $17,500 now at 17.5. On my left at 17.5. At $17,500, then Ford at 17.5. At 17.5. At $17,500 left side at 17.5. $17,500 now at 17.5. I'll sell it. How much? $25,000 then at 25. Head of you at 25. You bidding? 27.5. 25 here then at 25. It's $25,000 then at 25 here at 25. Gord's bidder at 25. $25,000 now at 25. At $25,000 then at 25. Gord's bidder at 25. Any more? At $25,000 then at 25. We done. At $25,000, Gord's bidder, $25,000, and I'll sell it at 25. Sold. Yours at 25. $7,026.
Lot 143, the 1956 Porsche 356A 1600 Speedster. And when you consider how often these cars are offered, it's truly staggering that this one has had only 3 private owners from new. And as you expect, therefore, it's fully matching numbers with lovely original patina, maintained for the last 6 years, one of the finest Porsche collections in the world. Please also note that the jack and toolkit will be provided to the winning bidder following the sale. Lot 143, the Porsche Speedster.
Thank you, Alan. Started at 200, now at 200. We have 200,000 to begin at 200. At $200,000 now at 225, at 225. 250, your bid, Gord, at 250. At 250, 275 against you at 275. At $300,000 now at 300. At $300,000 now at 325, ahead of you now. At 325, say 50. At 325, then at 325. At $325,000 now at 325. What's that? 330. Okay, now at 330,000 at 330. $340,000 now at 340. $340,000 now say 350. Yours at 350. At 3 in the center at $350,000, then at 350. 360 now at 360. All done? At $360,000, then Ford at 360. At 370 now at 370. At $370,000, then Ford at 370. At $370,000, then Ford at 370. Say 380. One more. $370 against you then. $370,000, then Ford at 370. All done, men, at $370,000. At $370,000. And fair warning at 370. Passed the lot at 370.
Lot 144, the 1965 Ferrari 275 GTS. Such an understated and elegant yet supremely powerful GT car, one of only 200 made. This one delivered new to Bob Grossman himself, after which a past FCA president owned the car, a gentleman who's owned 40 Ferraris, including a 250 LM, we might add, and who says this is the most enjoyable street Ferrari of them all. And the matching numbers engine was rebuilt by Mark specialists to boot. Lot 144 is the 275 GTS.
Beginning at $700,000, shall we? At 700? Thank you. At 700 then. At 700. At 750 now. At 750. At 750, 800,000 now at 800. At $800,000 and at 800. I have 800,000 now. 850, yes. At $850,000 now at 850. At 850, 900. It's $900,000 at 950 now at 950. At $950,000 now say $1 million. I have now at $1 million. At $1 million now at $1 million. $1 million now say $1 million one. $1 million one. At $1,100,000 now at $1 million one. At $1 million one now say $1,150,000. At $1 million one for it now at $1 million one. At $1 million one for it now at $1,100,000 for it at $1 million one. At $1 million one for it then at $1 million one. At $1,100,000 then for it at $1 million one anymore at $1 million one. At $1,100,000 then for it at $1 million one. At $1,100,000 then for it at $1 million one anymore at $1 million one. $1,150,000 then at $1,150,000. At $1,150,000 then at $1,150,000. $1,200,000 now at $1,200,000. $1,200,000 then for it at $1,200,000. $1,200,000 now with me at $1,200,000. At $1,200,000 now, $1,250,000 now at $1,250,000. Gord's bidder at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000. $1,300,000. $1,300,000 then for it at $1,300,000. At $1,300,000 against you now, Gord, at $1,300,000. At $1,300,000 anymore at $1,300,000. At $1,350,000 now at $1,350,000. At $1,350,000 then for it at $1,350,000. At $1,350,000 then for it $1,400,000, yes. At $1,400,000 now for it at $1,400,000. At $1,400,000. I have $1,400,000 then for it at $1,400,000. At $1,400,000 then for it at $1,400,000. Any more? At $1,400,000 then for it at $1,400,000. At $1,400,000 then for it at $1,400,000. Any more at $1,400,000? At $1,400,000 now for it at $1,400,000. I have $1,400,000 then for it at $1,400,000. Any more? $1,400,000. We all done at $1,400,000. Last chance then at $1,400,000. $400,000, and fair warning at $1,400,000. Past the lot at $1,400,000.
Lot 145 has developed a slight problem with the shift linkage into reverse, which will be corrected after the sale at the owner's expense, who has also generously offered to deliver the car to the new owner to any location in the continental 48. It's the 1954 Bentley R-Type Continental Fastback Sports Saloon, an instantly recognizable profile as it turns before you. This was the world's most expensive production car and the fastest four-seat touring car money could buy. Of the limited 193 built, only 9 were automatic transmission left-hand drive cars, making this a true rarity. This car is well documented. The car colors are original to it, as is the engine. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, one of the rarest R-Type Continentals, a left-hand drive automatic 1954 R-Type is lot 145.
700 begins it now at 700,000. I have 700,000. Here with me at 7 to begin it now at 700. At $700,000 now 700, 725, 750 here now at 750, 775, 800. At $800,000 now with me at 800, 850, 900. Still here at $900,000 now at 900. I have 900,000 at 950 now at 950. $1 million is your bid. $1,050,000 then at $1,050,000. Now say $1,000,001. It's $1,050,000 now at $1,050,000. $1,000,001 now at $1,000,001. $1,150,000 now at $1,150,000. At $1,150,000 then Ford at $1,150,000. $1,200,000 and $1,200,000. At $1,200,000 now Ford at $1,200,000. $1,250,000. $1,250,000 now at $1,250,000. At $1,250,000 then Ford at $1,250,000. Now say $1,300,000. At $1,250,000 then Ford at $1,250,000. $1,300,000 then Ford at $1,300,000. At $1,300,000 on my right with Jack now at $1,300,000. I'll sell it now for $1,300,000 at $1,300,000. $1,350,000 now at $1,350,000. Here in the center at $1,350,000. At $1,350,000 now at $1,350,000. Not your bid, Jack. $1,400,000 now at $1,400,000. And against you now at $1,400,000 and against you at $1,400,000. At $1,450,000, thank you, at $1,450,000 now at $1,450,000. Now say $1,500,000, Jack. $1,500,000. Yes, I have. Here at $1,500,000. $1,500,000 now Ford at $1,500,000. Bidding at $1,500,000 then Ford at $1,500,000. One more. $1,550,000. No. $1,500,000 then on my right at $1,500,000. At $1,500,000 all through. At $1,500,000. Are you sure? At $1,500,000. And fair warning then at $1,500,000. It's here at $1,500,000. Fair warning. $1,600,000 over in the corner someplace. With you, Brent, and $1,600,000. At $1,600,000 where you've called it at $1,600,000. $1,700,000. Back to the original bidder, $1,700,000. At $1,700,000 now at $1,700,000. At $1,700,000 now at $1,700,000. At $1,700,000 then at $1,700,000. You have another chance at $1,700,000. At $1,700,000 now at $1,700,000. Not your bid. On my right, it's $1,700,000 and fair warning at $1,700,000. Sold, $1,700,000, your bid. Louder.
7077. Lot 146, the 1961 Fiat-Abarth 1000 Bielbero GT which you understand was the very first car built with fascinating period racing history and with multiple successful finishes at the Nürburgring, Nassau, and Sebring. Restored by Abarth specialists and formerly shown at Pebble Beach, these cars are available very, very infrequently, much less at public auction, and they're tremendously capable racing cars. Lot 146 is the Fiat-Abarth.
All right, then, for lot 146, Fiat-Abarth, and it is offered without reserve, so let's start it at 75,000. 75, do we have 75 to begin it? 75, yes? 75, I have it now at 75. At 75, standing on my right now at 75, say 80. 80,000 with you, Gord, at 80,000, now at 80. Gord's bidder at 80. 85? 85, now you've got it 90,000 on the left. Now on the left-hand side at 90. Now we have 95, 90,000 here at 90. Where you've called it on the left then at 90,000. 95, I've got it now at 95. At 95, say 100. 100 now with Jonathan at 100. At 100 now at 100. On my left at 100. Bidding? At $100,000 and Ford at 100. I'll sell it at 100. At 100,000 on my left and at 100. At $100,000, 110 up front now at 110. 120. 120 back there. Yes, no, maybe. Think about it for a while. $120,000 and at 120. At $120,000 and at 120. In the rear of the room at 130 now at 130. I have it now at 130 near me at 140 and back now at 140. He's stubborn, 140. At $140,000 now we'll say 150. Your turn. 140 behind you, 150 up front now at 150. I have 150 here now near me, 160 and back. $160,000 now at 160. One more? Just one more. Just one more. He's at 160. You want to bid? That's what you're doing to me, is cutting my throw. 165. At 165 now at 165. 170. 107 in against you now at 170. Not your bid. 175. 180. 190. 200. 210. 220. 225,000 now at 225. At 225, 230. 240. Say 240. 230 then. At $230,000, not your bid. It's behind you, sir. 240. At $240,000, now say 250. 240 in front of you. 245, then at 245 and back. No. 245, then at 245. 250? 250 here now at 250. At 250 here now at 250. 260 and back. $260,000 then at 260. Deep breath. $260,000 then at 260. $265,000 now at 265. 260, 270 now behind you at 270. At $270,000 then Ford at 270. $270,000 then Ford at 270. At 207, I'm waiting. At $270,000 then Ford at 270. At $270,000. Going once at $270,000. Last chance at 207. You want to bid, sir? At $270,000 at 270. At $270,000 then Ford at 270. Are we all done at $270,000 at 270? $270,000. I can't wait any longer. At $270,000 in the back of the room at $270,000. Last chance at $270,000. Oh my gosh, $275,000 now at $280,000 now at 280. $280, rear of the room at 280, all done at $280,000. Sold for $280,000. $7,344.
Lot 147, the 1966 Aston Martin DB6. Such a wonderful car in these colors of Aston green over green. This is one of less than 200 highly sought after left-hand drive cars exported to the United States. And this one was outfitted with nearly every option available, including air conditioning. The recent work, by the way, was conducted by the premier authority on the mark, Mr. Kevin Kay. Lot 147 is the Aston Green DB6 from 1966.
Beginning it now at 200. We have 200,000 to begin it at 200. It's 200 here now at 200. 200,000, 225 now at 225. I have 225. At $225,000 now Ford at 225. At 225, 250. Years Gord at 250. At 250, 275 now at 275. At 275 I have now at 275. 300 then at 3. That's $300,000 on my right at 325 now. At 325,000 now at 325. For the Aston at 325. At $325,000 and Ford at 325. At $325,000 and Ford at 325. 350 now at 350 with Gord at 350. At $350,000 at 350 and 75. At 375 now at 375. At $375,000 then Ford at 375. At 375 now Ford at 375, say 4. At 375. I have 375 now at 375. $375,000 now Ford at 375. At 375, 400. I'm sorry, sir, that's your bid. At 400, yes? You bidding? 400, thank you, at 400. At $400,000 then Ford at 4. At $400,000 in the rear center at 400. At $400,000 now at 4. Any more? I have $400,000 and I'll sell it then at 400. At $400,000 then at 4. Selling at $400,000 then at 4. Any more than 400. At $400,000 then Ford at 4. That's your bid, sir. At $400,000, all done now. At $400,000, sold to you, sir, at $400,000. 8061.
Lot 148, the 1938 Maybach SW38 Roadster. One of the grandest marks of the pre-war era and truly a motor car fit for royalty. This being the short wheelbase alternative to a 540K special roadster in this lovely design by the exclusive coach builder Spohn. Of the over 100 such cars that remain, very, very few survive in this roadster form. This is the Maybach SW38. It is lot 148.
And we begin this at 500,000 now at 500. At 500 for the Maybach at 500. It's a beautiful car at 500. At $500,000 now at 500, say 50. At 500, 550 now at 550. 600,000 against you, Gord. 650 still here now at 650. Now say 7. $700,000 now at 7. 750. Yours at 750. At 750, 800 now at 800. Against you now at 800. At 800, say 850. at $800,000, then Ford at $800. $850 yours now, Pete, at $850. $900 against you. $950 your bid now at $950. No, ahead of you at $9. Is $900,000 then at $9. I have $900 against you now. Say $950. At $900,000 then Ford at $9. Not your bid. At $900,000 now at $9. I have $900,000 then Ford at $9. Say $925. At $900,000 then Ford at $9. At $900,000, $925 now at $925. At $925,000 then Ford at $925. At $925,000 then Ford at $925. In the center of the room at $925. At $925,000 now at $925. $950 now at $950. At $950,000 now at $950. Say $975. $950 here then at $950. Bidding? $975 I have now at $975. At $975,000 then at $975. And I'm selling it at $975,000 then at $975. In the center of the room at $975. $975,000 then Ford at $975. In the advance, I have $975,000. Ladies bid in the center of the room at $975,000. We all through at $975. Last chance. $975,000 sold. That's yours, ma'am, at $975. Your number again? 7138. Thank you.
Lot 149, although this M1 should be purchased by a dealer or out-of-state resident due to California emissions, the car actually has only 12,800 kilometers showing, not miles, as indicated in the catalog. This is, of course, BMW's mighty supercar with Italian styling and German engineering. This is a very well-maintained original example with original books and tools, and its correct Inca orange finish with Schwarz interior. Lot 149, the BMW M1.
And beginning at 200, now at 200 here, now at 200 on the BMW at 200, 200 and 225, 250. At $250,000, then at 250, now at 250. At 250, now at 275, yours, David, at 275. At $275,000 at 275. $300,000 now in the front row at 300. 325, then at 325. 350, now at 350 against you, David. At 350, say 375. At 350 now with me at 350. At 300, 375 now at 370. 400 now at 400. At 400, still at 400 now. I have $400,000 then at 4. Say 425. 425. At 425 now at 425. David's bidder at 425. At $425,000 then Ford at 425. At $425,000 then Ford at 425. At $425,000 now at 425. All done. David's bidder at $425,000, 450. Thank you, Brandon, 450. At $450,000 then at 450. At $450,000 then at 450. At $450,000 now 450. Here at $450,000 then at 450. At $450,000 then at 450. 475 now at 475. At 475 now at 475. At 475, David's bidder at 475. And against you, Brett, at 475. At 475, it's here now at 475. $500,000 now at 5. At $500,000 now with me at 500 on the left now at 500. At 500, say 25. $500,000 then Ford at 5, now at 5. Your bid at 5. Another bidder? 510 now here at 510. 525 ahead of you now at 525. At 525 with Brent now at 525. Thank you. At 525 now at 525. At $525,000 then at 525. $525,000 now at 525. All done. All done then. At 525 on my left, where Brent's called it at $525,000. Last chance at 525. And sold at $525,000. Number 7286.
Lot 150 should be purchased by dealer or out-of-state resident. 1984 Ferrari 512 BBI, one of the last Ferraris to be truly hand-built, one by one, in this, the final year of production. The restoration you see before you was executed by Mark specialists in this stunning black over black color combination, which is, by the way, original to this car. Lot 150 is the 512 BBI Ferrari from the final year of production.
175 to start it, now at 175. It's here at 175, 200. At $200,000 now at 200, say 225. At 225, 250, now at 250. At 250, now say 275. 250, then at $250,000, then at 250. At $250,000, then Ford at 250. At $250,000, then Ford at 250. At $250,000, then Ford at say 275. 250. At $250,000, then Ford at 250. At $250,000 now at 250, I have 250,000. At $250,000 then Ford at 250, any more at 250. At $250,000 any more at 250. It's 250,000 then at $250,000 for the 512 BBI. 250,000 passed at 250.
Lot 151, the 1954 Talbot-Lago T26 GSL, outfitted with the larger 4.5-liter engine. This is one of less than a dozen believed to survive, and they truly are offering grand touring at its finest. A convenient pre-selector gearbox, a potent motor, and the styling and comfort of French workmanship, the 1954 Talbot-Lago T26.
Starting at 170,000 now at 170. We have 170,000 here. At 170,000 now at 170, 180. $180,000 now at 180. Say 190. 180 now with me at 100, 190 now at 190, 200, 200 I have now at 200. At 210, 210, 20 now and against you. At $220,000 now at 220. At 220 now say 30. At $220,000 now at 220. At $220,000 then Ford at 220. $220,000 now at 220. At $220,000 then Ford at 220, any more at 220. At $220,000 then Ford at 220. At $220,000 then Ford at 220, 230. Gord's bidder, 230. 240. Now two places, 250. I have $250,000 now Ford at 250, 260 then here. At $260,000 now at 260. 275, thank you, at 275. At $275,000 now Ford at 275. At 275, 280 then at 280. Yes, at $280,000 now say 290. At $280,000 now say 290. At $280,000 then Ford at 280. At $280,000 now Ford at 280, say 290. $280,000 then Ford at 280. At 290. At 290 here, at $290,000 then with these guys at 290. Say 3. 300 now at 300. 10. 305. Here at 305. 310. 320. At 320. 340. Say 50. $340,000, then Ford at 340. At $340,000, then Ford at 340. At 340 with me, say 350. At $340,000, then Ford at 340. At $350,000, then Ford at 350 now at 350. Now say 360. $350 here, then at 350. At $350,000, then Ford here at 350, not yours. It's $350,000 up front near me at $350,000. In the third row at $350,000. Last chance at $350,000. Your bid, sir. Sold. $350,000. 984, $350,000.
Lot 152, a correct set of fitted luggage has been completed since going to print with the catalog and will accompany the car in its sale. This is the 1962 Ghia L6.4 Coupe. When you consider Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Peter Lawford with American power and Italian styling, this car, like the illustrious owners that own them, is the Rat Pack on four wheels. This is a rare European delivery car in exquisite original colors with a restoration that is absolutely beyond reproach. Lot 152 is the Ghia L6.4 Coupe.
Starting at $175 now at $175. $175,000 now at $175. At $175,000, 200. You've got it now at 200. Gord at 200. At 200,000, 225. Your bid, sir, from the Midwest at 225. Right up front now at 225. Now at 225. You bidding, Gordon? 250 now at 250. 250 now. Say 275. Think about it. At $250,000 now at 250. 275 now at 275. I have $300,000 now at 300. At $300,000 then Ford at 300. 325 now at 325. At 325 on the right then at 325. 325. At 325 on my right with Gord then at 325. 325,000 all done at 325. Right side and against the right. 350 now in time at 350. Gentleman's bid at 350,000 in the 375. Head of you, sir. Say 400. 375 then here at 375. At 375 all done. $400,000 now at time. At 400. 425 now at 425. $425 here then at 425. At 425. All done. At $425,000, $450 now at $450,000 now at 450. At $450,000 then 460 now. Gord's bidder at 460. Say 70. 470 now at 470. I have $500,000 now at 500. At $500,000 then at 500. At 500. Now say 510, sir. $500,000 then Ford at 5. Gord's bidder at 5. Are we through at 500? At 500,000 bidding. 510 now at 510. That's 520 with you then at 520, Gord. Gord, your bidder at 520. Not yours now. At 520, it's here now at 520. At $520,000 then at 520. At $520,000 then at 520. Where you've called it at $520,000 then at 520. 530 now with Shelby at 530. At 530, Shelby's bidder at 530. I'll put in the 5,000 myself. It's 530 is the next bid, and I'll pay the 5,000. Now, $530,000 now at 530. At $530,000 at 530. You bidding, Gordon? 530 then. Where you've got it, Shelby, at 530. All done. At $530,000. Going once, going twice, sold for $530,000. $905.
Lot 153, the 1959 Bocar XP5 Meister Browser 3. The famous car raced by two brewing heirs and very skilled racing drivers, we might add. Augie Pabst and Harry Hewer, hence the name. Only about 15 were built, and this one, as special as it is, enjoyed single ownership for 44 years. It's an expert restoration, a former Concours entrant, the ex-Augie Pabst, ex-Harry Heuer, 1959 Beau car.
Begins at 250 now at 250,000 here at 250. I have 250 now, Ford at 250 and 275, 300 already. At $300,000 now, Ford at 300, it's here at 300. I have $300,000 now, say 325. At $300,000 and Ford at 3, we have 325, 300. I have $300,000 now at 3. Say 325. It's $300,000 and Ford at 300. At $300,000 and Ford at 3 anymore at 300. At $300,000 and Ford at 3 anymore at 300. At $300,000 and Ford at 3, all done at 300. At $300,000 and at 3 anymore at 300. 300,000 and all done at 300. Fair warning at $300,000. And down it goes for $300,000. Past the lot at 300.
Lot 154, the 2014 Mercedes-Benz.
You have a bid? 325, then at 325. Jack's bid will open it back up at 325. At 325 here now at 325. At $325,000 then Ford at 325. At 325 at 325,000 now at 325. Your bidder at 350 now and against you at 350. At 350 now at $350,000 now say 375. At 350. At $350,000 then Ford at 350. 375. At $375,000 then Ford at 375. At 375 then Ford at 375. Jack's bidder at 375. And we'll sell it then at 375,000. On my right standing, Jack's bidder at 375. All done at 375,000. Sold it is at 375. Got a number?
7837. Lot 154 is the 2014 Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG Black Series, the absolute pinnacle for the SLS, essentially a street-legal DTM racing car. Consider this, 622 horsepower, carbon fiber everywhere you look, and 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. It's effectively a brand new car with 315 actual miles, and it's especially rare as one of only 30 solar beam yellow U.S. delivery cars. The SLS AMG Black Series.
Begin it now at 200, now at $200,000, now at 200. I have 200. 225 now at 225, say 50. 250, thank you at 250. At 250 on my left, then at 250, 75 now at 275. At 275, say 3. $300,000 I have now at 3, 325. At 325 now at 350, yours, Brad, at 350. At 350, 75, 375 now. I have 375 now, say 4. At 375 and against you at 375. At $375,000 then Ford, say 4. 375 then Ford at 375. At $375,000 then Ford at 375, all done at 375. At $375,000, say 400. 375. 400 then where you've got it. Now Weaver at 400. At $400,000 now here at 400. Bidding? 410. Now at $410,000 now at 410. 20. 420 now at 420. I have 420 here now at 420. Say 30. 420,000 then Ford at 420. We done now at 420. At $420,000 now at 420. All done at 420. Thank you, Brent, at 420. $420,000. Your bid now at 420. And it's sold for $420,000.
$7,911. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening at the very same time, 7 p.m. We wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the evening. Thank you.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. Ooh. my eyes above it, moving so phenomenally. You're more like the way we rock it, so don't